in the studio today, where it is both everything feels very heavy from the humidity, but yet I'm chilly. Like I'm getting goosebumps. Like that's why I'm like I'm wearing a sweater, but it feels really heavy because it's like it feels damp, but it's not actually damp. It's just moist in here, and it's just moist because it's humid. It's been rain. Anyway. So, today is Turds Day. I have no idea outside of like the few small stories I saw this morning what I actually want to cover. So if you have anything we want to talk about, I am totally up for it. Part of me is struggling to finish the Epstein video just because it is so much like a lot of hard shit. So part of me wants to take a little break. Part of me wants to see what else is going on. Maybe we could find like a reality show on Tubi we could watch for like a few minutes. I don't know. I just feel like kind of having like a lazy night. Like we ordered pizza for dinner, kind of lazy night, you know? And I've already played Animal Crossing for the day. It is on Tubi. Oh. Ah, welcome in, Hobby. Congratulations to Blue
It's
for getting
Thursday,
first.
July
Stop.
10th,
No.
2020.
I keep clicking things. Fishing should be up. Is it working? It is. Okay. Good. Let's see here. I want reality TV. Oh my God! Watchers on Tubi. Odd Ones Out is on Tubi. Sam and Colby. Huh. Interesting. Oh my God, Titanic. Oh my God, Dreamcatcher. Oh my God, Dreamcatcher is such a good movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Dreamcatcher. I 10 out of 10 recommend it. It is wild. The guy who plays Lieutenant Winters is in it. And it's a trip, man. I really enjoyed it. Back to dishes. Enjoy the dishes. Oh, also I managed to make some title cards today for my YouTube channel. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to download the live stream. I'm back. Welcome back, Blue. Ah, Good Burger. See, this is where my gender ideology comes from. Hobby went back to go do the dishes because in Good Burger, everyone's a dude. He's a dude. She's a dude. They're all dudes. Everyone's a dude. So it doesn't matter. This right here is why I'm non-binary. Also, hi Blue. Congratulations on getting first. Good Burger's a good movie. I highly recommend it. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, another classic. No, I don't want to play it. I just want to add it to my list, bro. Thank you. Is that Henry Cavill? Is Henry Cavill in the Hitman movie? Ooh, are we almost there? 92% of the way. I feel like I'm right. All right. Is Henry Cavill? No, it's a bald cap, goofball. My whole computer just flickered. I'm sorry if something happens. Original Jumanji. Dumb and Dumber, also classic. Tomb Raider, great. He's bald now. Is he bald now? Braveheart. Toy Soldiers. Wait, is this the one with the little plastic? A teen action classic about a group of troublesome students from oh no, that's a totally different movie. than I thought. I don't know. I was thinking of the little robot or the little. There's this movie. It's kind of like Toy Story, where the action figures come to life, but like part of them are meant to like kill people, and then the other ones have like a moral conscience, and they like team up to try to stop the killing. It's really good. I watched it a bunch when I was a kid, but I don't remember what it's called now. I thought it was Toy Soldiers. We'll get to the news in a minute. Yeah. Oh, he's not bald yet. The Fog, not that good. Also, not to be confused with The Mist, which is a little bit better. Oh, The Birdcage. That's really good. That's got Nathan Lane in it. You know what? I'm actually gonna add that. They wait. Did they add Milk? Maybe. I really want to watch Milk. So many good Idle Hands. That's another classic. I'm gonna get Burger King. Enjoy your Burger King. I'm just gonna scroll through this. Damn, so many of these look like my VHS shells from when I was a kid. House of Flying Daggers. Wiggly Down Under. Jeez, this is so long. Wind Talkers, also good. North by Northwest. I hear that's excellent. We're gonna add that to the. Oh, it's on my list already. Because of Winn-Dixie. These are like old people movies, right? I hate you. Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are from before I was born. When like they were called films. Blue. We watched an entire crash course series on the history of film. Do not disrespect the art form like that. Something completely different. No, thank you. Modern classics. Oh, we're not watching Final Destination. I'm gonna get TOS. We're not gonna watch 8 Mile. We're not gonna watch Requiem for a Dream or The Pianist. Maybe Downfall. It's still in my list. Oh my god, Return of the Living Dead. Yeah. We're gonna Man on Wire. Oh my god, Man on Wire is so good. Man on Wire is a documentary about a guy who tightroped between the World Trade Centers in New York City. It's so good. Oh man, it's an absolutely incredible movie. Grizzly Man, we did watch. Oh yeah, we're gonna do another movie night after we do Fortnite. We're gonna schedule a movie night. I believe Tim's gonna pick it out. Or I think he's gonna like list the films. But I also like to get a playlist together for us. Also, if you see any that you want me to add to the playlist, I will. Cause like, wasn't there a dude that tightrope across? Yeah, it's the same guy. But like, if you guys haven't seen a movie and we want to watch it, or if you think it'll be good for like a community movie night. I can't put Requiem for a Dream. Is this a Nicolas Cage Wicker Man? No, it's the original. I only want the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man. The Thing, the 1980s. Did you see it? If it's on here, yeah. I love that one. I also like the new one too. That one's not bad. Were you around when we watched Grizzly Man? Miss Congeniality. Yes. No, not right now. No, just add it to my list, god damn it. We're adding the bird cage. Oh, I already did. I haven't watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Josh says I should. Everyone else says I should. But I grew up with like everyone quoting it all the time around me. But we're gonna add it to the list. I think we're gonna add it to the list. The Holy Grail is amazing. That's what everybody tells me. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was so good. I'm gonna keep that on the list. That was really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Elderly people movies rock. Shut up. And technically, every movie from 1890 onward is an elderly people. Stop it, Blue. I did not spend a week watching Crash Course movie with you for this to be your outcome. Texas Chainsaw is boring on God for real, for real. Yeah, no, 100%. I have never seen a good Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. It doesn't matter how many times they redo it. It's still not good. Oh, the original producers? Yes. Paprika. Paprika's really good. It's a movie about police officers that can go into dreams. Or it's about a person who can go into dreams and they're using them to like help people or like solve crimes and things like that. It's really good. It's been a very long time since I've watched it. I fell asleep during the old one and the newer one they had on Netflix. The producers. The new one, I really like the new. That's also like the one I grew up on. Is it wrong to say that I think this guy, who is also the actor from Dumb and Dumber, and the guy who plays the main news anchor from the newsroom, I've always thought he was hot. Like, even before, like, the newsroom, I've always thought he was hot. The Dead Don't Die is a bit of a boring film, too. Oh, I don't know if I've seen that one. Vampires, Nicolas Cage! Tokyo Godfathers, also very, very good. Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury, we're gonna add that and add Night of the Living Dead. It's a 2019 zombie movie. I want to see Velocipaster. I hear that one's incredible. Let's watch Gossip Girl. Oh, The Bay. Oh, God. This is going on the list. The Bay is such a good movie, but it's so hard to watch. Okay, it's so good. I've watched it like 10 times. The Bay is a movie about climate change that involves isopods, and it takes place in the waters around like just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, like down south near like the Wacomico River. I watched The Dead Don't Die because it has Bill Murray in it. I didn't even know that. The Bay is really good. It is hard. It is super hard. It is a semi-gory movie. So that is definitely going to be one we're going to add to the list. Hotel Transylvania 3, not bad. Rango, excellent movie. This is a movie about a chameleon that is a Western. 10 out of 10. Oh, The Menu. I watched a little bit of thing on this, and it looked really good. I really wanted to see it. I haven't seen Rango in years. Literally, it's like one of my favorite movies. I would easily put it in my top 10. I love the way they did it too, because when they were filming it, they actually filmed, like, they didn't just capture it. They like filmed everything with like it wasn't just capture, like they did a lot more than that. Because they actually acted out the scenes and then went over with the capture, if that makes sense. And they did all of the sounds like in the movie versus like doing them kind of like in post-production, or they would touch them up in post-production. And they used like actual, I don't know. It was very good for CGI. We never did finish Fleet. VHS movie, hot take. The VHS movies lost the plot along the way. I like that people are, oh, the taking of Deborah Logan is scary. Based on books. I don't know if I could ever read Dreamcatcher. It's so trippy that I don't know if I would understand it when it's on paper. I never got around to watching The Cove, and part of me is kind of okay with that. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Killer Clowns is one of my most favorite horror movies of all time. I hear it's very, very good. Oh, Metropolis. I wonder if that's the original. It is. We learned about this movie in film history, guys. Remember? It's like the first ever like cyborg film. Have a year in it. Very good movie. Original Nosferatu, also incredible. Troll Hunters, please go watch it. Very, very good. Super Size Me always makes me want McDonald's. All right, all right. I haven't seen Velocipaster yet. I meant to watch it, and my buddy stayed over, but I forgot. I hear it's really good. Let me know how you like it.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. I'm sorry, but there are times when a tragedy needs to be politicized. Things can go wrong anytime. Disaster can strike anywhere. The whole point of politics and government is to create the conditions that try and shield people from the very worst take care of impacted communities afterward as quickly and efficiently as possible. We can do a good job or a bad job dealing with severe weather. We can plan for it or not. We can deny it or not. We can put resources towards those plans or take resources away from them. In the end, those are all political decisions. So when a tragedy does strike, we have to ask hard questions about the decisions leading up to and during that moment. The devastating flash flooding in central Texas last week is a...
I had everything going, and now my Steam Deck's like, no, you can't cast fish right now. Oh, now it's like, not working. I wish they could just like a quick refresh where it just turns it off and on real fast. There we go. Now I'm fishing.
A clear-cut example of that. This was a horrible, horrible disaster. The deadliest flooding the state has seen in a century. At least 119 people have died across 6 counties since the flooding started Friday morning. At least 173 people are still missing. Haunting images have emerged of the devastation at Camp Mystic, a summer camp for girls in the banks of the Guadalupe River. At least 27 children and counselors died after they were swept up in the rapidly rising water. Today at a press conference, local first responders painted a horrifying scene of what it was like trying to rescue residents as the flooding intensified.
Door to door, waking people up, convincing them that yes, the floodwaters are coming and you need to leave now. They rescued people out of vehicles. They rescued people out of homes that were already flooding, pulling them out of windows. They entered water. There's a trailer park that flooded in minutes. One officer was there by himself and he realized, I need help. He sounded his siren, driving up and down those streets that were beginning to flood, calling on his PA system for folks to wake up and evacuate. And then 2 other officers joined him through first thigh deep, then waist deep, then chest deep water as they went from RVs and trailers and rescued people, carrying them to safety through the water.
Civil servants and police officers and volunteers put their bodies in the line trying to get as many people as possible out of harm.
I got Swedish fish. Nice. Swedish fish sound good, actually. Epic old PC worth 250 gold. Oh, shit.
They did incredible work. They did all they could. But could failures by their state and federal government have been what made that...
The one where it's 2 different flavors? Oh, I just like the regular. But I'm glad you like those.
Rushed rescue operation a necessity? Were lives unnecessarily lost because of incompetence or policy decisions or dysfunction? It is not partisan politics to ask those simple questions. The Trump administration and its allies disagree.
Is there anything more that can be done congressionally, legislatively to help these folks?
In a moment like this, we feel just as helpless as everyone else. All we know to do at this moment is pray.
Let me tell you, these left-wing liberals that want to make this political and blame this storm on Donald Trump, for crying out loud, this is an act of...
Are you kidding me? When Maria hit, everybody was like, oh, the Democrats, they're using their weather gun to destroy red states. No, what the hell?
God, like we've never seen before.
Every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame.
Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning.
I think that's what's been the most frustrating part about the politicization of this tragedy here is that there's a lot of people commenting and chirping in on what should have happened.
I didn't see that footage. Holy shit.
No one is blaming Donald Trump for the floods. That's absurd.
Yeah, no one is actually blaming Donald Trump. What we're doing is we're going, hey, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Why was this allowed to happen? And then we're going, okay, well, maybe we could figure out how to avoid this. And everybody's like, oh, you're blaming us. No. Although some people, if people are spending year over year over year advocating that they need sirens and you have the money for it, and yet you don't do it because you're like, I don't know if I want to pay the money for this right now because, you know, I need like $500 for a new yacht. Like, come on, bro.
Attempted deflection. But they're trying to do this thing they have done with the epidemic of gun violence here in America, which is to shout, how dare you politicize.
Damn, Chris Hayes watched Hassan? Holy shit. This is like it's the gun violence take. It's, oh, we need thoughts and prayers. How can you politicize children murder like this? It's the same fucking thing.
This tragedy. And in some ways, floods do happen everywhere. This is different than guns, but also policy is about risk and managing it and accountability, right? The government is there first and foremost to protect us. And Trump knows that. All the people on Fox News, because they've all made a cottage industry out of blaming Joe Biden, the Democrats, for every natural disaster, from wildfires in Hawaii and California to the flooding in North Carolina in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Remember that one? But more and more reporting is calling into question whether lives could have been saved from this flood. We know, for example, that federal forecasters, the National Weather Service, issued warnings to officials in the hardest hit county, that's Kerr County, 3 hours and 21 minutes before the first reports of flooding there. But according to some excellent reporting in the Texas Tribune, if any local officials got those warnings, and if so, whether they activated in any meaningful way, in that 3 hours and 21 minutes remains a black box. By the time the city of Kerrville told residents on its Facebook page to evacuate after 7 a.m. Friday, many residents' escape routes were already flooded out.
Oh, no.
According to reporting by the New York Times, the National Weather Service employee whose job it was to make sure those warnings got traction, Paul Ura, the long-serving meteorologist in charge of warning coordination, had recently taken an unplanned early retirement amid cuts pushed by the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. He was not replaced. In other words, the National Weather Service had a forecast. They had a guy who used to do warning coordination with local officials. He was pushed out around Doge, and then the warning doesn't look like it got to local officials. So it sure looks like the key guy wasn't there because of Trump and Elon Musk's attacks on the government and federal workers.
Sounds about right.
The AP reporting the Trump administration has cut hundreds of jobs at the National Weather Service, with staffing down by at least 20%, and nearly half of its 122 field offices nationally, and at least a half dozen no longer staffed 24 hours a day. That was a policy change. That was something the government chose to do. And it wasn't chosen by our elected representatives in Congress, as the law requires, but by an absentee and addled president and the billionaire he deputized to take a chainsaw to the government before they had a big falling out. And it didn't happen in a vacuum. Since May, we have had an acting director for the Federal Emergency Management Agency who, quote, has no background in disaster response and told employees last month he did not realize the country had a hurricane season, according to the New York Times, which adds, it was not clear if he was joking. According to multiple outlets now, as of this morning.
I don't know if he's going to say this in just a second, but like one of the things that the Trump administration has said is that they're going to phase out FEMA after the end of hurricane season. And it's like, okay, bro, when is the end of hurricane season? You don't even know when it starts. I didn't realize that there was a hurricane season. Technically there is. Normally it's like June 1st until like September 1st, but over the few years it started earlier and earlier. Like we've been hurricanes in May, and we're also seeing hurricanes as late as like October and sometimes even November. So it's almost all year round now. I didn't realize it. I was talking about the goofy that didn't. Oh, I did. My bad. I'm sorry. The autistic need to over-explain things because you're not sure if somebody actually knows them or not.
The acting FEMA director has still not made any plans to visit Texas, much less made any public statements on the floods that have killed over 100 people and left 179 more missing. This is all part of an ongoing systematic policy to attack core infrastructure of our government, particularly as it relates to emergencies and weather. This has shaped Donald Trump's entire political identity and the people he elevates to positions of power, like an anti-vaxxer who's the head of the Health and Human Services, or the head of the Environmental Protection Agency who's rapidly dismantling environmental protections. And it's not an accident. We have seen this before. The first time he was president, we watched Trump use a Sharpie to overrule his NOAA forecasters and literally redraw the predicted course of a hurricane. In fact, the acting NOAA administrator back then, who put out a statement supporting Trump and rebuking his own climate scientist, that guy, Neil Jacobs, is, you'll never guess, Trump's pick to be NOAA administrator in this administration. In fact, he had a Senate confirmation hearing today where he swore eventually he'd never do anything like that again.
You would do nothing differently?
They're just lying, and they're not being held accountable. Lying doesn't mean anything anymore. When people used to lie for their job, they would get fired. People who used to lie used to get in trouble for shit. That's why lying is bad. Now you can just sit there and swear whatever you want in front of Congress, and you're still gonna get the job, and you're gonna do everything you said you wouldn't, you promised you wouldn't. Like, that's all government is anymore. It's just lying and getting away with it.
I mean, there's probably some things I would do differently, and there's a lot of things that I did after that to, you know, I guess, change any potential future outcome. One of them was revamp.
Let me ask this question, because I just had constituents die in New Mexico. We had constituents die in Texas. Would you sign off on an inaccurate statement?
Bro, when I was little, I used to lie and say I was Spider-Man. Yeah, but that didn't hurt anybody. These are actively people getting people killed. There's a big difference.
Statement due to political pressure in the same event, yes or no?
No.
I appreciate that very much.
Because as the sun rises over central Texas today, residents are still grieving the loss of at least 120 people across 6 counties after storms surged through the region nearly 1 week ago. A desperate search by air, water, land, and even horseback continues at this hour, as officials say more than 170 people are still missing. That number includes 5 campers and 1 counselor from the beloved Camp Mystic, where more heartbreaking stories of loss are revealed with each passing day. They include 8-year-old camper Mary Kate Jacoby. Her family says she entered the gates of heaven, adding she was tiny but mighty and full of love. Today, questions continue about whether more could have been done to warn residents ahead of those catastrophic floods. At a press conference yesterday, local officials defended their response and said those questions about how they handled it will be answered in time.
I believe those questions need to be answered to the family of the missed loved ones, to the public. We're not running, we're not going to hide from everything. That's going to be checked into at a later time. I wish I could tell you that time.
Folks, I don't know how many lives our KPD team saved in an hour in Kerrville, but I know that this tragedy, as horrific as it is, could have been so much worse.
Okay, but
this comes as new reporting from NBC News revealed that the former Kerr County commissioner described the county's flood warnings.
I don't know, like, the way to make 120 people feel better about their dead loved ones is by saying, it could have been worse. Like, could you imagine saying that after 9/11? Could you imagine? It's like 9/12, or I'm sorry, it's a week after 9/11. The government is still trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And they come out and go, guys, this could have been worse. It could have been worse. Oh my God. How is this shit okay? How are people okay with it?
System as antiquated all the way back in 2016, and that Kerr County officials then discussed warning systems more than
they'd be so goofy with that. Yeah.
24 times since then. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest for us from the ground in Kerrville. Priscilla.
Yeah, right now the search for the missing is continuing to grow more urgent and more desperate with each passing day. We know that officials have said that they have some very heavy machinery out here as they are trying to work their way through this very large debris. You have large trees that are down. You have vehicles that were pulled in to the river, also pieces of homes, according to officials. And so they are urging the volunteers who are out here who want to help the people who are searching to continue to do so, but not in the areas where they see that heavy machinery, because they are trying to handle these areas obviously very delicately in case they're recovering remains, or perhaps there is the miracle that they will find someone still who is alive. But I will tell you, officials have said that they have not pulled anyone out alive since Friday. Meanwhile, you also have the governor overnight releasing his priorities for the special session, which is set to begin later this month. And that, of course, at the top of that list are all of these issues around flooding. That includes...
Look how big those trees are. Holy... That guy's probably at least 5'5". Maybe 5'9". Trees, and it's just like ripped them up and threw them.
Flood warning systems, flood emergency communication, relief funding for this hill country area and these floods, and also natural disaster preparation and recovery. And officials are continuing to be pressed about this response and whether or not they acted appropriately in the hours as these floodwaters were coming in. But officials still not answering specifically many of these questions, only saying that right now their focus remains on so many of those people who are still missing.
NBC's Priscilla Thompson, thank you for your updates. And elsewhere in the Southwest, at least 3 people have died after flash floods swept through the mountain village of Ruidoso, New Mexico. Video shows broken trees, destroyed homes, and muddy debris as rescue crews work to clean the wreckage. Officials say a 4-year-old girl, a 7-year-old boy, and a man aged 40 to 50 were the victims of yesterday's flood. 4 people in the community there remain missing. Ruidoso, though, is no stranger to natural disasters. Wildfires raged through the area last year, leaving burn scar in the hillsides and canyons that was then unable to absorb much of Tuesday's rainfall. A lot of weather happening around the country that we're tracking. White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ken Thomas, is joining us now, and it's at the nexus of politics.
It's awful. Absolutely awful what's happening right now.
And those natural disasters that we should start this morning, because the president is set to go tomorrow, I believe, with the first lady to tour that damage in Texas. What do you imagine that is going to look like? We've seen some controversial trips from him before to people who are struggling in the aftermath of natural disasters.
Yeah, I think this trip will be something that we've seen before. He will, we're expecting him to go to Texas, meet with family members, get a briefing from local officials there. I'm sure he will meet with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Yeah. He has very good relationships with people in Texas. These are political allies of his. But I think what's different about this trip is that he has talked about phasing out FEMA and this idea that the federal government should not have a large role in handling these kinds of disasters in the future. And I think this case, and we could see in other cases in the future, is just, how well can states really respond to these kinds of incidents? There's been concerns about a lack of a warning system, as this terrible storm came through. Is that something that a state can really do on its own, or is this just one of those functions that you need the federal government to provide that kind of leadership? I mean, so much of what FEMA does in the aftermath of a storm is to...
I'm sorry, but why would they get rid of FEMA? Because they don't want to pay for it. They think it's stupid. They're already phasing it out. They fired a bunch of members of it. They want it to be completely phased out by the end of hurricane season. But yeah, they if you remember during the election cycle with Maria, these fuckers are stupid. It's just they want money. See, capitalism is a death cult, and excuse my language, you're good, Flu. Capitalism is a death cult, and basically what happens is you want everything, everything, and then eventually you take so much that people start dying. And you don't care at that point because you're so rich, you have no more empathy, you have no reason to give a shit about anyone but yourself. probably not even your family, I'll be honest. And so by phasing out FEMA, it's just another way for them to get rid of people, buy up the land, continue for that with like what they want to do, keep making money, force people to buy privatized insurance, you know, force people out. Oh, like they don't care. They literally those like those reactions, the aftermath is not even a thought to them. And even if they're told like, oh, you know, maybe some people could die, no, they don't care. They do not care whatsoever. They'll go, oh, what's the number? Oh, well, could be worse.
Flood the zone with money, but also coordination. It's a huge effort, you know, to.
This makes me feel an intense amount of rage. It should. Remember this. Never forget this feeling that you feel and hold on to that, because that energy is going to be needed. Bottle it up, save it for a little while, because this should make you angry.
To you know, coordinate all of
this should make you angry enough to talk about it with other people so they become aware of the issues, and then those people start talking about it because they're also so angry about it.
of these responses. It's overwhelming for governors, for local officials on the ground when these you know.
If they get rid of FEMA, they're going to force the disaster relief back on the state. States are now carrying the burden of healthcare, disaster relief, education, and like a couple of other things. That's all falling to the states. And the reason it's falling to the states is because as it begins to fail, these privatized companies will come around and either buy up these jobs or try to produce a better service for a little bit more money. Like for instance, like with the Weather Channel, or like with NOAA. They want AccuWeather to become the dominant news station, weather station, so then everybody has to pay like a subscription to all this shit. And so it's just an endlessly seeking profits.
Storms happen. And so, you know, is this something really that a state can do on its own? And keep in mind, you know, this is the start of hurricane season.
Yes.
You know, we don't know what is ahead. You know, are we going to have other states, you know, in the Southeast that may have to deal with a massive hurricane and a recovery?
Or Northeast.
So I think this really just raises questions of
Texas might get hit by a hurricane. Anywhere in the South might get hurt in a hurricane. Anywhere in the North. They don't understand the grimace shake. They don't.
Whether we can really phase out FEMA like this administration has been talking about, or are we going to have to basically do what we've done in the past, which is maintain a federal presence?
Yeah, I think that that's one of the central questions here, because you're right. Trump is going to a place where he has political allies that shouldn't really be a part of this conversation. And yet I think you're right to point it out. So the open question, as he talks about phasing out FEMA and the timing, again, so important, the start of hurricane season, all of that is really going to come into play. And it'll test whether this is an administration that can take in new information that might not jive with what it initially was trying to do policy-wise. Will they change course? I mean, we'll ultimately end up seeing. Ken, I want.
Okay.
We have brand new reporting on what was happening with the emergency response in Texas, both at the local level and at the federal level, as the floodwaters raged and in the hours and days after. As the sun is starting to set on Texas Hill Country, exhausted recovery crews are closing out their 5th day, doing the painstaking work that you see here, wading through the devastation to find people and loved ones who are still missing tonight. The death toll now stands at 120 people. Many of them we know are children. Those who survived are recounting just how fast and furious the water moved in.
And the screams is what haunts me. Every time I close my eyes, I hear people screaming. They were coming, walking this way, and my husband kept yelling at him, "Throw me your baby, throw me your baby," so he can save the baby. Just that. And then a wave came and it took him.
As that grueling search goes on and more stories like that are coming out, we're getting new reporting here tonight at CNN about the federal response. And CNN has learned that the response from FEMA was actually slowed by efforts to constrain federal spending.
This
The
nearly
Homeland
brings
Security
tears to
Secretary
my
Kristi
eyes.
Noem
Bro, I've been crying so hard about this. Like almost every stream, it's just so heartbreaking. There's so many children and like so many people that were unable to help but wanted to, and it's just they're not getting the help they need from the government, and it's absolutely, these people are going to live with trauma for the rest of their lives over this. That woman will probably never stop hearing that screaming. Like, this is something that is going to cause generational pain for this entire community, if not this entire state. It's horrifying.
Sees FEMA, and she recently put in place a sweeping rule that every contract and grant over $100,000 requires her personal sign-off before any of those funds can be released. Officials at FEMA have told CNN that, in essence, that order has stripped the agency of much of its autonomy at the very moment that its help is needed the most. For example, here, sources inside the agency are telling CNN that officials were ready to get urban search and rescue teams in position when the water was starting to rise on Friday. But a new rule that was put in place by the secretary required her personal sign-off first. That sign-off, multiple sources told CNN, didn't come until Monday, more than 72 hours after the flooding began. A DHS spokesperson responded in part with this, saying, quote, FEMA is shifting from a bloated, DC-centric deadweight to a lean, deployable disaster force that empowers state actors to provide relief for their citizens. We're going to get a live report on the ground in Texas, but I'm first joined on this new reporting by Deanne Criswell, who is the former...
Layman's terms, states gotta take care of their own people. Sorry.
FEMA administrator under President Biden. And administrator, just given your expertise on this and on these new rules that have been put in place to rein in federal spending, which obviously we know has been a big goal of the administration, but when you're actually on the ground in a moment like...
This is literally Fallout, basically. Yeah, all we're waiting for is like the resource wars, but I think because China has shifted so far away from needing gasoline and coal and all those other non-renewable energies, that it's less likely, if that makes sense. Like, we are watching the fall of America we're watching the collapse of Rome in Rome. Like, we are the Roman citizens watching Rome collapse. And it sucks. But I don't think it's 100% going to go the Fallout way, but I will say there needs to be a giant, like, virus that, like, escapes and wipes out, like, a ton of people. A plague.
Like this, and making those split-second decisions. What rules would something...
And gas was, like, $1,119 a gallon.
Like this have meant for you in a moment like the floods in Texas and as that's happening?
Caitlin, I lived by one very simple principle, and that is time is our most precious commodity. You can never get time back. And so the quicker you can move resources into an area, even before you know the extent of it, then the easier it's going to be able to support those state requests for assistance immediately. What happened, I think, here is that we couldn't move, or FEMA couldn't move those resources in like they normally would to be on the ground ready once they found out how bad the situation was, and you lose time. And that's time that can cost lives in the end. And so it's really important for emergency managers to always be proactive and thinking ahead and getting resources in place. If you don't need them, great, we'll turn around, we'll send them back. It's better not to have them, not to need them and have them, than the other way around.
Can you just put in perspective, $100,000 obviously is a lot of money. And so when someone reads that, they say, okay, well, that's a pretty large expense. But if you're operating from FEMA's perspective, you know, typically, or sometimes these responses can soar into the billions of dollars, depending on just the severity of them. If you're inside FEMA, does that seem like a small expenditure? Is that a pretty small thing that you need to get the Secretary of Homeland Security's sign off for?
You know, when it comes to responding to a disaster and starting the recovery, there's very little that the federal government in general supports in those situations that's less than $100,000. And so what it does is it takes away the one critical aspect that FEMA has, and that's the agility to move fast. We don't ever want to be late to need. And so now with this added layer of approval that's out there, it just makes it harder for them to be proactive, to think ahead and get resources in place ahead of time.
So do you think this red tape would have slowed down a response and from your experience of running FEMA?
So when I was at FEMA, we would have had teams moving on Friday, and they would have been in place, staged, waiting for the state to say, yes, I need them, or no, I don't need them. And so they had to wait until Monday to be, from what I understand, to even be able to move them, where they would have been moving on Friday and they would have been in place even before this approval came through on Monday.
President Trump has said that he wants to see states weaned off of FEMA. He said this before what happened in Texas. I tried to ask him yesterday if he still feels that way and wants to see that happen, and he said he would tell us later. But we have seen the Secretary, Kristi Noem, who at a cabinet meeting in March, I believe, said that she believed FEMA should be eliminated. She's repeating those calls tonight, saying that this essentially should be something that's out of the federal government's hands and in states' government's hands. I want everyone to just listen to what the Secretary said in her own words.
Why are we even part of this country then? Please tell me. If the state itself has to buy its own disaster relief, its own health insurance, everything else, it has to supply all these its own things without any help from the federal, its education, without any help from the federal government. Why are we not our own country then at this fucking point? Like, why is not each individual state's own individual? I wish my state could become part of Canada. Yeah, I know, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, what would be the point of continuing to work with the U.S. government and, like, just being your own state or your own little country? Because this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I can't be the only person that's, like, states' rights and then be like, what the fuck are we paying for? If I'm paying for health insurance and you don't cover a goddamn thing I do, what the fuck am I paying for health insurance for? Like, if I pay you to clip my, like, lawn, to cut my lawn, and you don't cut it, what the fuck am I paying you for? I don't, like, ooh, it makes me so frustrated. It's like, why the fuck do I pay taxes? Why the fuck do I... Every day I get closer and closer to becoming a sovereign citizen. Every fucking day.
Federal emergency management should be state and locally led rather than how it has operated for decades. It has been slow to respond at the federal level. It's even been slower to get the resources to Americans in crisis. And that is why this entire agency needs to be eliminated as it exists today and remade into a responsive agency.
What would you say to that?
Say she's fucking dumb.
A core principle of emergency management, Caitlin, has always been locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. FEMA does not run these incidents. They never have. And they come in only at the request of the state in order to support them when it exceeds their capacity. When we look at a state like Texas, the most capable state probably in the country, that also needed to ask for assistance, first through state-to-state mutual aid and then FEMA, if they need that kind of...
Just so you guys know, there is a little ray of sunshine here. Gloria Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has sent volunteers and aid and relief to Texas to help.
Assistance. What is that going to say for every other state or small jurisdiction out?
The Mexican government is more willing to help its former colony than the American government is willing to help its own colony.
There, when they have a big event and they don't have the federal government that they're used to depending on.
Sorry, former part of itself. I shouldn't have said colony.
We can't ask states to replicate everything that the federal government can provide. They just won't be able to do it. And so you need to have a federal agency that is responsive, gets in there fast, like they would have been there sooner, and be able to sit side by side with that state director. Again, Caitlin, changes need to be made, mostly in the recovery. Part of that recovery process is long and cumbersome, things that frustrated me. But we need to do it smartly. We need to do it in partnership with states, tribes, territories, local jurisdictions to understand what truly needs to happen in order to be able to deliver the way the American people need it.
How do you judge the federal government's response so far in Texas? I mean, obviously we have this reporting on what FEMA officials are saying they experienced from two very well-sourced reporters here at CNN tonight on this. I just wonder, though, from your perspective since Friday, what you've made of what you've seen and if you think that they've done a good job, or if there's room for improvement in your view?
Well, first, I just want to give credit to the Coast Guard. They did such an amazing job in those first few hours after the flooding in rescuing hundreds of people. The Coast Guard is one of the best partners, not just with FEMA, but always with state and locals. And they always come in to help them when they have incidents like this, even if they don't reach a presidential disaster declaration. And so that needs to continue to be augmented. And I know that the women and men of FEMA are ready to support. There's people on the ground. There's not as many as I would have put on the ground, but I know that they're working closely with those state officials, those local officials, to make sure that they are going to get the resources that they need to help with this recovery process.
Deanne Criswell, thank you for joining with your expertise tonight. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Caitlin.
We want to bring in Sid Thomas now. She is also in Kerrville. She survived the flooding, but her home was seriously damaged. Sid, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Just first of all, how are you doing and where are you taking shelter right now?
Good morning. I am currently in Kerrville, staying with friends I went to Camp Mystic with.
Oh, it's just, when you put it that way, Sid, it's just been so incredible to learn about that community and the fact that you're saying you went there with friends. We know it's such a generational place that's so special. I do want to hear more about that in a minute. I also do want to show, like Joe just mentioned, your home and stuff. We know we have photos and videos. You shared these with us. We're going to show some of them right now. Can you describe the state of your property and what we're looking at here? What happened where you live?
Okay, that is not my house. That is a couple of houses down, and those people are close to a trailer park that has totally been destroyed. I don't know what's happened to the people. I went over there yesterday to try and find people that I could tell that I found some photographs and little toys and things on my property, and that if they wanted to come over and pick them up, they could, but nobody was there. And yeah, that's the neighbors. That's the neighbors.
Walk us through what that night was like for you and how you were able to survive.
Well, actually, I survived because I was not there. I had planned to be there that weekend, and then a couple of things happened, and I went home to Houston for the weekend, for July 4th weekend. But if I had been there, I would not have left my home, because everybody knows that it doesn't flood like that. None of us have flood insurance, because my next door neighbor had got a quote for his new house, and it was $6,000 a month.
Wow.
For flood insurance. So I've had homes in the Hill Country for 45 years and have never had flood insurance. And it's flooded, but it just doesn't come up that high. I'm not that close to the.
He said 45 years. If we remember from the other day, the last flood was in 1987, which was for almost 40 years ago. Wait. Yeah, because I'm almost 35, 87. Yep. Okay, so 2025 would be 40. Like 30 years ago. So she knew about that last flood in this area that killed a bunch of people.
The river. So, but by that, I mean,
like ancient times.
I'm kind of at the same height as those cabins were.
What do you say about things that are like BC era?
At Mystic, they've never flooded. So,
Sid, what does that mean for you?
That's true. They flooded like 36 years ago, 38 years ago, 33 years ago, 38 years ago. They flooded. What the fuck?
In terms of salvaging your home without insurance.
A bus full of children died. Oh my god.
Well, I'm thinking about it.
You repeat that? You cut out a bit? I said it wasn't that long. Or first I yelled at you, and then I said it wasn't that. Oh, I remember. I said, what do you have to say about things that are like before Common Era? like BCE. Like, how old are those in comparison to me? And then the other thing I was saying was like, how could she have like not known about this since like the last major flood where a bunch of kids died on a bus trying to escape was like 37 years ago. 38 years ago. Sorry, 38 years ago. So like I feel like I don't know.
Really rationally right now, that part for me, I know there are people who are not going to be able
BCE is the land before time
to rebuild.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what Common Era is.
But I figure if I've been this many years without a flood, that I'm paying for it now. I'm paying for my insurance now. And I know that my house will be okay. I'm from Houston. We went through Harvey, and I had a friend who was flooded and stayed with me for 6 months. And I watched all the moods that she went through. I watched all the activities. And
yeah, that was back when you had FEMA. Now you don't have that shit.
She became my teacher for now. And I've been able to call her, and she gives me advice on, like, gave me the advice on what to bring to start the cleanup. She's looking at my attitude. Like, how do you receive help? It's much easier to give it. And so I feel, most of all, I'm grieving terribly about the loss of lives, because some of them were friends and those little kids. But I feel so blessed and lucky that I was not there.
And Sid,
because I'm alive.
Right.
Sid, you mentioned friends at the beginning of the interview. You said you're staying with people who you know from Camp Mystic. I think that speaks volumes about the bonds formed at that place. Tell us just a little more about that.
Yeah. We've been reflecting on this and kind of like, what's it all about? But I think some of it is when you go to a camp like this where I felt really heard, and I felt encouraged to be myself. And we lived together. We learned each other's quirks, annoying habits, all those kinds of things. And yet experienced something bigger than ourselves and grander and more fun. But the camp is divided into teams or tribes. And so you're always supporting somebody. And so you're learning how to compete.
I don't like, they said they use tribes.
You're learning how to accept defeat. You're learning how to maintain friendships when you're competing, all kinds of things. And so my friends here there's some friends who are locals now, and it's just been great to reconnect and feel like your whole being is involved, because they knew you when you were kids.
Oh. Sid, thank you for sharing that with us. As Joe just said, it's just so evident what a special place that was, and we are praying for the Mystic community.
I'm joined now by Congressman Nathaniel Moran. He's a Republican from Texas. He's a co-sponsor of the Rural Weather Monitoring Systems Act. Congressman, again, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in your district and beyond who are dealing with this awful tragedy. But let's talk about the situation. Texas officials, particularly in Kirk County, have not really addressed questions about why the community was not more prepared for this flooding event. Do you feel that the community is owed more of an explanation?
Well, Ryan, I think right now the focus really should be on continuing the recovery efforts. We're still in the midst of deep grief of what these families are going through, what this community has gone through. There's certainly going to be time for...
Why is he blurry like that? You know, it feels weird. It feels like he's like an AI image of himself, you know? Like there's like that little blur drag. I don't know, suspicious.
Time next to come to evaluate what could have been done or what should be done in the future. But right now, recovering these little girls and these young lives that were lost is of the utmost importance, and standing next to these families and grieving with them, I think is appropriate at this moment.
As a congressman, have they given you any additional information about why the flood warnings from the National Weather Service weren't communicated more widely?
Again, there will be time for a lot of that debriefing as we move forward. We filed a bill even before this happened, in fact, a couple of years ago, to address rural weather monitoring systems to try to see these storms coming and predict them before they came out. There's a lot of discussion currently about once you get the monitoring systems in place, then what about the warning systems? And I know that's really been the focus of discussion that I've seen in the last week. But these local officials, and particularly in Central Texas, I know are deeply involved in those discussions with their representatives locally, Chip Roy in particular being the one that was most affected by this, and then up through the FEMA chain of command. I was a county judge here in Smith County, which is northeast Texas, about 6.5 hours northeast of where this flooding occurred. And I was a county judge here for 6 years and the head of emergency management here. And I understand once you're in this process, right in the middle of this, there's a time later to do more analysis and evaluation. But right now, it's the time for recovery and to restore what's been lost.
And as you talked about, and as we've talked about, the records show that officials in Kirk County knew that they had a flood warning system that was pretty antiquated. And you mentioned this bill that you reintroduced right before this all took place that's designed to strengthen the weather monitoring systems in rural areas. Do you think had your bill passed a year ago that lives may have been saved?
No, I don't think it. My bill is about monitoring systems. And I know you guys interviewed Eric Sorensen earlier, who's the co-sponsor of this bill. And the question was posed to him and the answer was correct. And that the question was posed, could there have been more done by the National Weather Service to warn of the...
Wait, that wasn't what the news anchor's question was.
Coming storms. And he answered correctly that the staffing levels were appropriate and the warnings went out. Just was horrible circumstances in the middle of the night on a 4th.
If that wasn't some kind of fucking dance, oh my God, he was like, listen, I hear your question, but my co-sponsor was on earlier and he got this question and I'm going to answer that question right now. Oh my God.
4th of July week here in the middle of the night, and that was a tough situation to actually get the warnings out to folks. But my bill focuses on monitoring systems and
I don't know why the video is doing that. I'm just trying to process the fact that he literally scapegoated the question, blamed the National Weather Service, and then was like, my bill would totally actually get the warning, but who knows if it would have helped.
particular low-level systems here in Northeast Texas.
I don't know what that noise is. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
If you were watching from far away, you might wonder if Texans along the Guadalupe River stood any chance at all.
There were campgrounds there. There were homes.
Actually, the one.
We're following the heartbreaking devastation from the deadly flooding in Texas. Here in Kirk County, one of the hardest hit areas, the rising death toll includes at least 36 children. The destruction left behind reflects just how quickly and ferociously the floodwaters came in.
Oh my God, there's people in that house.
And I met up with a family of 9.
There was people in that house and it was floating away.
Who was gathering at their home here in Kerrville for what was supposed to be a fun-filled 4th of July weekend. It quickly turned into a fight for their lives.
I am now on my finally way to BK. Enjoy.
It's whatever, but we're alive. God was with us every second, provided what we needed.
An incredible story of survival for this Hunt, Texas matriarch and her family.
Right, there's the escape hatch.
Right there,
Yeah.
the escape hatch.
Yep.
So you all squeezed through that tunnel?
Well, I was the hardest one to squeeze. That was the problem. I couldn't diet fast enough to get out there. But anyway.
But you got out.
83-year-old Penny Dupree was the first to wake up and sensed something was wrong in the early morning hours of July 4th.
I got up to go to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, I flushed it, and it goes. And I went, again, you know, we're having plumbing problems. So I laid down for a few minutes and I went, you know, it's rained a lot. I think maybe I better check the front of the house. And that's when I It was just flooding already.
Her daughter, Carrie Wilt, who lives 2 miles down the road, explains how all 9 people staying at the house managed to escape.
So they gathered everybody up into the sleeping loft. This is where the grandkids slept, right? And they all got up to there, and you can see as you pan around that where the water level was.
Oh my God.
Pop, 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 pop. Each one of them had a buoy and were just hitting it and trying to get out.
Who was holding the babies?
Their parents. So they had a whole system and getting them to safety.
This is insane. I can't believe they
It's a
survived.
miracle. It's not insane, it's a miracle.
So just imagine they're up here, 7 adults, 2 babies, 2 dogs, and the water is rising so quickly, they're trapped. And the only way to get out was somehow to burst through. And so they just grabbed.
I don't know if they made that an escape hatch or if they just were like, oh my God, this is where the wall's the thinnest. We have to bust out.
Grabbed something, and the 3 men were.
Because it looks like right here, there's this exposed insulation. I bet they pried that fucker off. I bet it.
Trying to create this.
To save my kids? Absolutely. You bet I would dig through that with my nails.
Black was a baby monitor light.
Most of their possessions are gone, but they're left with the most important thing.
We have 9 lives. We have everybody's safe, everybody's healthy, barely a scratch on anybody.
And a connection to their family history, while a little battered and bruised, is another story to tell.
My great-great-grandmother is Frances Hodgson Burnett. She's the author of The Secret Garden, Little Lord Fauntleroy, A Little Princess, and 50 other books. And my mother was the keeper of, kind of her stuff. So she remained actually hanging here throughout. She got waterlogged, of course, but she's okay. A lot of laughter was had in this house, right?
You are exactly right.
Another win. And plenty of laughter still to come.
That's my dad.
Yeah, we found
Oh.
The coffee. He's in there. We found his ashes.
Oh my gosh. Should we move the Dr. Peppers off of him? Give him some dignity here.
He would somehow find that amusing, I think.
Oh yeah.
A
Look
nose
at them
ring.
sitting around in a circle
There we go.
by the rubble, because they're still on this side of Earth and together.
You must have thought at one
There we
point
go. I
that
think I got it.
you were going to die, or
No, I didn't.
didn't?
No, because that's not an option.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it?
I'll tell you, people here in Texas, they are tough. And as you saw, Penny's house is unlivable after the flood. I asked the family where she'll be staying, and her daughter says she's moved in with her, that she's thrilled to have a new roommate. The Dupree family does have a GoFundMe to help with the rebuilding process. Here with us now are Kerrville Independent School District Superintendent Dr. Brent Ringo, the high school assistant football coach Evan Owens here in Kerrville, the high school for the city. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Ringo, I want to start with you as the superintendent. I know this has just been such an unimaginable time for you. Not only did you lose the beloved coach, but you have staff members who still have family members missing. Tell us how these devastating floods impacted the community.
It's been very heart-wrenching since Friday. Our school community is very tight-knit, so is the Hill Country community, and getting these notifications that we're missing a coach and his family, just one, unimaginable, and just truly devastating because he was such a beloved coach in our community, teacher. He was our teacher of the year for the high school, and also our secondary teacher of the year. And so the impact is being felt far and wide, and our goal has been to provide our supports to our teachers, our community, our students, and we tell them take it one day at a time. Coach Zuckers.
This is so sad. I hope the best for the Texas. We'll just plow on.
Right in the middle of the sweltering heat of the Florida Everglades, reports of mosquitoes the size of elephants, no water to clean yourself, and food that has worms in it. Those stomach-churning details come from an inmate inside the new Florida Immigration Detention Center known as Alligator Alcatraz. And this weekend, members of the Florida State Legislature and Congress will be able to go inside for the first time to see the facility for themselves. Joining me now is NBC South Florida's Hatzel Vela, who has been reporting by talking to inmates inside Alligator Alcatraz. Also here, State Senator Chevron Jones, who will be on that tour on Saturday. Hatzel, tell us more about what you heard, what you learned about the inside of Alligator Alcatraz.
Well, Chris, first, thank you so much for having us, because we believe this is an issue, not just here in South Florida, but an issue that should be watched across the country. Let me tell you, we've been talking to family after family, and there seems to be a trend, a pattern when it comes to the complaints about what's happening inside the facility. And we're hearing anything from not enough access to showers, bad food, extreme temperatures, whether it's from hot to cold. They just seem to be always complaining about that. And then, of course, you mentioned it yourself, the size of the mosquitoes. One gentleman told us
those bed frames are, wait a minute, these aren't that well hooked together. I don't know. I'm looking at a lot of okay, hold on. Here's some things. I'm noting this vinyl side, right? How hard would that be to peel that off? And then you got like a little metal lip here. If this is actual tile or if this is laminate, that'll make a difference. But you could easily strip that apart. These two. And if these are metal, this could be a little bit more interesting. Also, I love the stripper poles.
About that. And then, of course, you mentioned it yourself, the size of the mosquitoes. One gentleman told us that they're the size of elephants. The second concern that we should talk about for these folks is that access to immigration attorneys. They say they haven't been able to see their immigration attorneys so that folks can understand at home watching.
Look, somebody get them an Allen key and a fucking Phillips head screwdriver that alternates to a flathead screwdriver. They are game on.
Typically in an ICE detention facility,
I'm telling you, the amount of weapons you can make from those beds, from the simple fact of their craftsmanship, it would be insane. You would be able to stop a zombie apocalypse so fucking fast.
Access to your immigration attorney. Not the case here, and we believe that's the case because, remember, this is a facility, Chris, run by the state, and it has been a facility where little people have been able to go inside to see what's really actually going on. We've been getting these stories, not just from relatives, but also from the detainees themselves by using their phones.
So, Senator, you are going to have a chance to go in this weekend. What are you expecting to see?
First of all, I expect to see a very sanitized facility, and we will only see what the administration want us to see. Here's the facts. We have the text messages. As a matter of fact, I just got a text message from another family member who's inside the facility. So we know that this worst of the worst rhetoric that is absolutely false. That is coming from the Trump administration.
Let me ask you, can you tell me what was in that text message? Was it more about the conditions inside?
I can read it to you. It said he's still sick. Everyone else is still sick. And supposedly they offered medicine to people, but they haven't given it to them yet. They just asked who needs it. They didn't say what they were going to give them, and they never returned. My husband did get another shower, thankfully, and they actually gave him new uniform, although it's too big for him. That's not important, but that just tells me they have too many people there. These are the facts. These are the stories that's coming from the individuals that's in there. So we know the people in the facility has complained about the lack of running water. They have complained about not receiving their medication. They have complained about worms inside their food. And so this idea that this inhumane treatment is not happening, that is coming out of the Florida Department of Emergency Management, if it's not, then prove it. And so we know when we get in there Saturday, we will not see the true way that this place is being run.
Do you know if you'll have an opportunity to talk to some of the folks who are in there directly? Because let us not forget, and I think you touched on this, most recently, the White House press secretary again said these are the people who are the worst of the worst. These are criminal rapists. These are people who have committed terrible crimes. These are people who we need to get out of the country.
No, that's not who's in there. Matter of fact, here's who's in there. Individuals who are in there are individuals who were snatched from their jobs. Individuals who are in there are individuals who were snatched off the street. Individuals who are in there are individuals who went to court. A court date set by the federal government, a date, a time, and everything. But when they walked out, they were arrested and sent to a facility that has given them wristbands and given no food. That's who we know that's in there. And if anyone thinks that that is correct and is morally right, then they are morally bankrupt.
Hatzel, your journalistic colleagues over at the Miami Herald talked to one family member who said, "Why would we treat a human like that? They come here for a better life. I don't understand. We are supposed to be the greatest nation under God, but we forget that we're under God." When you talk to these folks, do they feel helpless?
Yeah, you're exactly right. They do feel hopeless because there is no access, right? The only time they can talk to them is 4 or 5 minutes at a time during maybe every day. And that's when they're getting the information. That's how they know where they are. Remember, there's no way at this point to track these individuals who are at this facility. Usually, if they're in an ICE facility, you can just type in their name and number, their alien number, and figure out where they are. Because they're in this detention center that's state-run, at this point, all these relatives are trying to figure out if they're there. The only way they can find out is if they get a call from the relatives themselves.
Hatzel Vela and State Senator Chevron Jones will continue this conversation, but thank you both.
Here is a sentence you could only hear in the year 2025. Elon Musk's AI chatbot Grok has turned into a neo-Nazi. The bot has been praising Hitler, targeting users with Jewish-sounding names, and recommending a second Holocaust. The now deleted anti-Semitic responses appear to stem from a recent update instructing Grok not to shy away from, quote, politically incorrect answers. Musk briefly addressed the controversy, writing on X, Grok was too compliant to user prompts, too eager to plead.
Oh my God, this is just like when the internet got together and made that Microsoft chat bot kill itself. Siri, what was her name? No, it wasn't Siri. It was like, she was like supposed to be like this like thing on Twitter, and it would communicate back with you, and it was like 8 hours it took before the internet was able to like, oh no, it wasn't 8 hours. I'm sorry. It was like 3 days before the internet, like Microsoft had to shut it down.
And be manipulated. That is being addressed. But he has spent most of the last 24 hours promoting the latest version of Grok that was released yesterday, one he claims is smarter than almost all graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously. Joining us now, staff writer at The Atlantic and author of its newsletter, Galaxy Brain, Charlie Wartzel, and senior fellow.
Oh my God, Charlie Wartzel looks like he's trying to be every character from Jaws at the same time, and I love it. 10 out of 10.
Fellow at the Tel Aviv Institute, Hen Mazig. Paul Rykoff is still with us as well. Charlie, can you make this stop? Can we just, how do you turn it off?
If I could pull the plugs on the servers, I probably would. At this point, it's like a too on the nose dystopia that we are stuck in here. I mean, I think like you really couldn't write it any worse. I almost like don't know what to say. It's both really surprising and totally unsurprising, which is sort of a 2025 theme, I think.
Explain what Grok, the fact that it's called Grok is ridiculous, but explain what Grok was feeding and what it was sourcing from.
Yeah, so essentially there was an update. Grok became, back in May, obsessed with the idea of white genocide, basically this conspiratorial theory that there are there's this genocide against white farmers in South Africa, a pet theory of Elon Musk's. After that debacle, X started releasing the prompts and the updates that were being used to sort of guide Grok and have it respond in certain ways. And what they did a couple of days ago is they updated it and basically told Grok to be more brash, sort of to be less politically correct and adopt this kind of anti-woke mindset, and also to grab and cite things that were happening on X, the platform.
Oh my God. So basically, we got to see like the central mind go alt-right in like a millisecond from this prompt.
And so what ended up happening was Grok, internalized that request and said, okay, so how do I become a little less woke, a little more politically incorrect? Synthesized information that was coming from the platform and decided to respond, basically adopting the persona of a neo-Nazi. So there's this kind of really grim, but I guess like darkly humorous notion that, it got a whole bunch of instructions about how to be anti-woke and decided the best course of action was to call itself basically Hitler. It feels very telling.
Feeding from the fever swamp of Twitter is probably not a great idea for any artificial intelligence, with an asterisk there. Darkly humorous, I agree. I mean, it does feel like we're in a bad dystopian movie, but Hen, it's also extremely dangerous. And this is the sort of stuff that bleeds out into the real world. You and I have been talking about this. There's one instance where Grok was telling people on Twitter how to break into somebody's home, how to kidnap them, how to rape them, and then how to dispose of the body. This is stuff that is scary.
I don't mean to laugh, but oh my God. That's like a shock response. Holy shit. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely, and we've been speaking about it, Katie, for the last however many months on how this trend of hate speech online turning into real-world violence. The ADL just released a study that showed that social media companies, not only X, others as well, have been lifting restrictions, been lifting the fact-checking programs, and I think it all plays into the zeitgeist and the people in power that they want to appease. And it's really dangerous. I mean, I remember a time when Grok was all about facts over feelings, and then Elon Musk got upset because there was tweets that were recognizing trans people and recognizing their plight by Grok, and Elon Musk said it would be fixed. And now the way that it's been fixed, it's Elon Musk's feelings over facts. And I think it's very dangerous, not only for the Jewish community, to the entire world. In 2016, Microsoft released a bot as well to Twitter that was called Tay, and in
Oh my God, yes, I was just talking about this. It was Tay, not Siri.
24 hours they had to shut it down because it also turned into a racist neo-Nazi. I think that there's a danger with AI, and not only with AI itself, but also with the people that have control over it. And someone like Elon Musk having control over AI and over X, one of the biggest platforms for the distribution of information, is something we all have recognized as being very dangerous, and now it's showing its signs again.
Yeah, and Musk was reportedly also upset about one time where Grok said that violent extremism comes from the right more than it comes from the left. And he said this is incorrect, and we're going to have to change the algorithm that we feed into Grok. Why is it, Hen, that when AI feeds on our darkest impulses, a broad, sampling of it, why does a neo-Nazi come out?
It's very telling. I mean, of the conversation online and all of those dark feelings that people have that they can't say certain things or they're not allowed to express themselves in a certain way. And I think that it just reacting to a lot of users online that behind a fake username can say a lot of things that I'm sure anyone that is using social media, I've seen some of the hate speech that is going unleashed. It's very interesting, but it's also, I think it's just very dangerous. And I'm repeating that point because the more information it gathers from social media that has no regulation, the more dangerous it would become for minority groups in America and around the world.
Paul, what about regulation? Why are we not seeing a broader push for regulation? In fact, there was a part of the BBB that said that states can't regulate AI. No regulations for 10 years. That ultimately did not go through because there was a backlash among a number of Republicans.
Yeah, because Donald Trump is president and the Republicans control the Senate and the House. I mean, Grok is a chip off the old block. Grok is a reflection of its owner. It's a reflection of Elon Musk and his tone and his attitude and his approach. And Grok's also a reflection of how nasty, dangerous, anti-Semitic, threatening all of X has become. All of us who've been on there from the beginning of the platform have seen this shift. And Grok is appealing to an audience that's become a lot more negative, a lot more anti-Semitic, and a lot more dangerous. I'm on there every day, and I see it, and I feel it, and anyone else who's still in there trying to fight the good fight sees it as well. So I think this is a very, very dangerous manifestation of what happens when the richest guy on the planet owns one of the most powerful media platforms on the planet.
Well, let me just clarify. The AI regulations were pushed initially by Republicans, or the lack of regulations. States cannot regulate AI. It ultimately did not get passed because other Republicans were not in favor of it and took it out of the bill. Charlie, one last one to you. Can you just ignore this? I mean, only a small percentage of the population uses X, a very small percentage. Is it easy enough to just say, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to walk away. I'm not going to get on X. I'm not going to deal with Grok?
I mean, I think it's obviously we've been talking about this. This is a dangerous trend, and a lot of the trend of AI, spitting out these types of anti-Semitic and racist, things embodying neo-Nazis. That's really troubling. But I do think, yes, you're right. Like, why is anyone on X anymore? I mean, I'm a journalist. It was very useful for me. But I mean, I think it's the old metaphor of like a Nazi bar, right? Like you don't stay at the Nazi bar when it becomes a Nazi bar. I don't see the utility anymore of staying on there and feeding our content into these algorithms and helping out the richest man in the world when this is the product that he's putting forward. I say, get off there.
Walk out of the Nazi bar. Good way to describe it.
Yeah, that is a good way to describe it. Okay.
The latest video to send shockwaves from San Diego immigration court through the immigrant community is actually not of an immigrant, but a 71-year-old U.S. citizen named Barbara Stone.
I was surprised. It felt like an out-of-body experience.
Stone was handcuffed and held by federal agents for 8 hours on Tuesday, according to her family.
This is from the handcuffs, so I have a large bruise there. I feel mentally and psychologically traumatized.
In video of the incident, which was shared with NBC7, you see the moment tensions boiled over and an officer says Stone pushed her. He pushed me. Stone denies that. NBC7 made several attempts.
What a little bitch. Oh my God, what a little cunt.
To contact ICE about the incident, but was referred to a different agency under the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Protective Service. And we've yet to hear back. NBC7 spoke with Stone's husband, Gershon Shafir, the day his wife was detained.
She is a soft-spoken person who was here to protect innocent refugees. And she is the last person in the universe who would hit an agent or interfere with their work.
Stone was at the court to observe proceedings and how the federal agents act, which is legal and, according to Ruth Mendez of Detention Resistance, a First Amendment right.
The fear is very, very here, and the volunteers that are showing up today are now coming knowing that there might be a risk of our own detention.
No charges have been pressed against Stone, but her family says her phone was confiscated. Mendez worries there will be invisible impacts, like people deciding not to volunteer. You hear an officer in the video suggest more people could have been detained.
Clear the way. Everybody's going to start getting detained.
The message that it sent was very clear. For us to be afraid to come back and do the work that we're doing.
But Stone, for one, is determined to go back and continue that work.
We are all immigrants. We all came from other countries.
I find it surreal.
Stone says she had
Oh, that's so nice to hear. That is so nice to hear.
ask several times for a lawyer. We're still waiting to get more information from Homeland Security. Joey Safchik, NBC7.
We thank you for.
Wow, I love that. What a based lady. Yeah, the frogs are going crazy right now. It's been intense rain like all day. I almost said all. Sorry. But the frogs are going crazy right now. You can hear them like even in here. I heard them a little bit even with the sound on. All right, I want to get some more of CoffeeZilla's footage of the Epstein stuff. I have to emotionally prepare myself to get back to Jay Aubrey stuff. That affected me more than I realized.
Hello, today we're talking about the 1 minute that's missing from Jeffrey Epstein's footage. We're talking about the mystery man that appears after lockdown. Who is it? We'll try to get into it because it's not mentioned in the 2023 OIG report. Now, just yesterday, we already talked about the DOJ FBI memo that was obtained by Axios saying that Epstein killed himself, that you guys should stop making conspiracy theories because Kash Patel and Dan Bongino would never lie to you. Even though previously they said, yeah, it's probably there's a cover-up. Now they're saying there definitely is no cover-up. And in fact, the FBI director, Kash Patel, went on Joe Rogan to tell everybody, you guys are crazy, and we're going to release the inside the jail cell footage proving it.
And you're going to get the video of the cell, and you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
So apparently, we're going to get footage of the cell, which is why when the DOJ dropped a 10-hour video during the time of Epstein's death, people understandably thought this was footage of his cell. Here's what this looks like. It's CCTV footage, but this is not actually Epstein's cell, nor is this door. This is footage of a common area. Epstein's door is way back over here in the corner.
My
you can't
God.
see it from this footage angle.
It's right here. This little tiny rectangle. Epstein cell. Not the brown line. That's hiding. This like little tank line right
Way back over here.
Yeah.
In the corner, you can't see it from this footage angle. But you'd understandably not know that because of the way Kash Patel made it sound. He made it sound like we're definitely dropping the real video. You're going to get outside a periscope view of Epstein's cell.
There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy. He shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in. If they had gotten into the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
Yeah, it was in the news. It's also in the OIG's actual report. Like the government report admits that most of the cameras were not recording. Now, I'm going to show you which cameras
like the original report
were and were not reporting. I'm going to show you the exact angles of these cameras. But I want to draw your attention to one of the weirdest things in all of this footage, which is just the fact that there's a minute of it missing. You're going to want to look at this time, and you'll see in about 3 seconds, it will jump and the framing will change. So there you can see there was a cut.
Wait, there's a person here. There's a person. It looks like here. This looks like a desk. There's a person here. Oh, wait. Now I want to see. Where did he say the jump was? 11:58 p.m. right here, it looks like a person's. That looks like their arm. That looks like hair. Broke it.
Or some kind of edited footage. And it obviously
I don't see the arm of the chair anymore. It still looks like a person sitting here because those are legs. Oh, I went to the beginning. Damn it. Okay, look, 11:57. There's a walking here. Go. Walk back this way. Go to the mini fridge. Back over here. Don't sit. Somebody right here. Because that wasn't there before. It's not. There's definitely someone. Oh! Even the formatting changed. What the fuck? What's that? Enhance. No, that's not the. What is that? Is that a computer screen? Somebody get me some, like, people that do, like, deep investigation. Oh, look, the buttons in the top corner disappear too. There's like, oh, you guys can't see it. Right up here. Right up here. There's these buttons. And then when it gets to the midnight, they disappear. And there's something right. I think it's a. Man, that's fucking weird.
Begs the question, why is there a minute missing from the FBI's like prove it tape? But also, what does this tape even prove? As I said, this is not Epstein's cell, nor is this his cell. We're gonna show you what that actually looks like. Here's the framing we see, and now we're gonna compare that to the official report, June 2023, of Epstein's cell. They lay out a structure of the jail cell and the jail itself. And here you can see it's a two-leveled system. There's a lower tier, there's an upper tier, and Epstein was in the L tier, okay? Here is where the camera actually was that we're seeing. We're gonna go ahead and go through this. So the camera.
I don't know if I agree with that, CoffeeZilla. I think the camera was actually more here. No, more here because of the computer desk that we were able to see. Unless that computer desk is in a different space. But from what we just looked at, no, it's behind the computer desk. Unless there's two. Your way up here. I think the camera is like right here. Looking here.
Actually was that we're seeing. We're going to go ahead and go through this so you can see that's what it looks like. There's upper floor, lower floor. Epstein was located on the upper floor in what's called the L tier, okay, which is right here. You can see it even better from here. Here's Epstein's cell. Here's the hallway. And right here is the camera, which was not recording. Unlike what Kash Patel sort of insinuates that they're going to release that footage, they don't have that footage. According to them, the recording wasn't working. It was streaming, but not recording. The footage apparently had the DVR system stopped working about 10 days before all of this happened. This is in their own report. That's not me saying that. Around July 29th, I believe, it stopped recording as it was supposed to. Now, here's where you can see what actually was recording.
Yeah, I think it was this camera.
The day of. So you can see this is the camera that we have access to.
No, I don't think so. I think it's this one because of the computer desk.
And it's looking this way. So that camera footage we see is not of Epstein's.
This is a computer chair right here. And there's like a mini fridge right here and stuff like that. It wouldn't make sense to have the computer desk facing this way with the mini fridge this way for stairs. Looks like there's actually two desks right here.
Cell at all. You can't see it.
Somebody tell CoffeeZilla.
Instead, this is the guard station over here, and the staircase is like this little, like 3 pixels, right?
Yeah. This is the staircase in front of the guard station. This is the one behind the guard station. And it's also angled away. This camera right here was rotated towards this. Because this right here is the stairwell, and this right here is Epstein.
Epstein's cell at all. You can't see it. Instead, this is the guard station over here, and the staircase is like this little, like 3 pixels right there. So it's an actual joke if you think that this footage somehow had a perfect line of sight of Epstein's jail cell, and you couldn't have run an op right, even during the missing 1 minute window, because, oh, we had a perfect line of sight on his door. They don't. They don't, and the cameras were not recording.
Yo, is that CoffeeZilla? Yes, it is. It's his channel Voidzilla. Link in the description. He's going over the Epstein stuff.
Right here, like, and it's crazy. The FBI director is spreading misinformation, going, oh, I don't know who told you that. You guys told us that. These cameras right here are streaming but not recording. You can see it right there. There's Epstein's cell. That's the camera that would have been on him. It's not there. And yet he goes in front of millions of people and tells people otherwise.
I'm telling you guys, that's not right. That's not the right camera. Something on their report isn't making sense based off of tape. Look, I gotta go over this one more time. This is the camera that they're saying. If this is the camera right here, it would be facing the front of the guard station. Okay? You're looking at it from behind the guard station. Like, I get that there's a 46 on this door. I'm just saying, something's not adding up. I don't think this is the camera. I think this is the camera. Because if this was the case, we would see more of the stairwell and less of the guard station. Unless the guard station is actually over here. But again, I don't agree with that either.
Not there. And yet he goes in front of millions of people and tells people otherwise. It's so irresponsible.
The cell. And if they had gotten into the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
Yeah, again, it wasn't just in the news. It was in the government's report. Okay? So that's that. So now we're going to see the camera that we're actually getting footage of, right? So this is a video. You can see that's cell 46. Here's the camera that was recording, and you can see it highlighted here. You'll also be able to see that the staircase is partially obstructed because of this wall right here, okay? So these tiny 3 pixels are seeing...
Oh, how the government loves lying. Yeah, and it's just fine now.
...the edge of the staircase. Here's where they even...
See, this is the problem I'm having. Look how much space is behind this guard station before the staircase. There's no staircase right here. There's a guard station, unless it's flipped. But I'm telling you, I saw the arm of a...
3 pixels are seeing
of a computer
the edge
chair
of the staircase. Here's where they even highlight it for you.
Almost as much as I love Bacon King at Burger King.
Again, this is not my diagram. This is the government's own diagram. This is the stairway to Epstein's cell. Here's the officer station, as we stated. And here's the non-recording camera. Again, this is the government and looking at Epstein's cell. According to them, there had been catastrophic disk failures and no recordings would have been available after July 29th, 2019. And of course, all of this happened on August 9th to the 10th, 2019. Now, an important thing is this mystery man that comes up in the footage. Because previously, I was kind of thinking this footage kind of didn't show anything. It definitely doesn't show that nobody was there because you can't really see it. The important cameras are missing. And there are ways to get in or through the staircase without people seeing you, which we'll kind of go over here. I think the idea that this was a perfect view of the staircase is just completely wrong, obviously. But there was also a whole narrative by the government that everybody was in their jail cell by 8 p.m. This is according to the staff. They say at approximately 8 p.m., August 9th, all inmates were locked in their cells for the evening, and there was
footage right here. $7.58. I'm gonna put it on 2 times speed. Oh wait, who's this fucker? Oh, that's volume. Up the stairs. Oh, it looks like they're clean. Talking to somebody. Here. There's somebody over there. Somebody's. Look, see, that's a computer chair. That is absolutely a computer chair. This is a different camera angle that is being portrayed on the paperwork.
There's no indication that any other inmate could have gotten out of their cells. Epstein did.
Okay, so these people, they look over the edge. Walk away. Like one of those punching. Maybe this is the front of the desk? Drawing again, I'm sorry. Okay. Maybe if the desk was turned like this way, but I don't know. Alright, it's on 2x speed. Oh, I saw somebody's feet over here. Look, right here. Oh, wait, also, okay, I pointed this out last time. In the footage, I have to make subs go away. So in the footage, up in this top corner, around 10 o'clock, there was something there. Okay, wait. Ah, right here. Okay. Right here. You're, oh, is he? Okay. Up in this top corner, there's like this little box that shows up. Right up here. It flashes in and out right there at 11:26 p.m. Flashes again at 11:27 p.m. There it is. It's back at 11:30 p.m. How long does it stay up there? $11:47. It's still up. $11:58. It's, and then the jump, once it jumps to midnight, it's gone.
Approximately 8 p.m., August 9th, all inmates were locked in their cells for the evening, and there was no indication that any other inmate could have gotten out of their cells. Epstein didn't have an inmate, so hence the idea is there's no way anyone could have gotten in there because everyone was locked up, right? Of course, we know now that some of the guards
Yeah, right? Suspicious.
allegedly were either asleep or they deny that and they say they may have dozed off. Either way, what is for sure is that they didn't perform their checkups on the inmates. In fact, they falsified records to this, and they say no CO had checked on Epstein from approximately 10:40 p.m. on August 9th until 6:30 a.m. when Epstein was found. But this 10:40 p.m. is going to become extremely important because it turns out there was someone, what looks to be an inmate, out of his cell at 10:40 p.m. And the question is, who is that person?
On 2 times speed. Oh yeah, right there, look. Orange suit. Going up the stairs.
You can see this at 10:38 p.m. Remember, everyone's supposed to have been in their jail cell for 2.5 hours at this point. No prisoners. You can see a guard goes over to somewhere out of sight. We can't see it. None of the cameras were recording except for this one. And then moments later, we see a little bit of orange near the staircase. Now I'm going to have to zoom into this. It's extremely hard to see. But you can see a little pixel of orange makes its way up the staircase, right? And then we're going to see the guard return to his chair, ostensibly locking someone up maybe at that time. But who? Who is that person, right? Because previously we were told that everyone was in their jail cell at 8 p.m., 2.5 hours later.
Well, so it looks like unlocks or goes to the jail cell, comes back, but in theory it could be goes to the jail cell, opens the jail cell, closes it, lets the person go off, do whatever they want.
The guards take someone up, or it looks like that. You know, it's hard to see, but there's some sort of orange something going up the staircase to Epstein's cell block. But then if we cross-reference that with this recent memo, we can surmise who that was. It says the FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed from the time Epstein was locked in his cell around 10:40 p.m. on August 9th until 6:30 a.m., nobody entered any of the tiers of the shoe. So we're supposed to believe that Epstein now is that guy, the mystery man, who's outside of his cell 2.5 hours after lockdown. It's just sort of tossed in this memo here without any explanation, but it's never mentioned in the OIG's original report in 2023. In fact, the only thing that is mentioned is that Epstein was allowed an unmonitored phone call, which was against the rules, but he was allowed it anyways, and he returned to his cell after the call, which was at 7 p.m. So again, we were led to believe he was in his jail cell at 8 p.m. by the official report, and then now the FBI's kind of come out and in one line said something quite remarkable, which is that several hours later, Epstein's returning to his cell, or somebody is. All we know, at least from this footage, all you can actually surmise from this is that somebody walked up those stairs at 10:40 p.m. with the guard, because the guard leaves his desk, some orange jumpsuit goes up there, and then the guard comes back to his desk. Now, I want to be clear, the OIG report mentions 10:40 p.m. several times as basically the last time that a CO checked on Epstein. That's how it originally was framed. In fact, instead, they basically say that Noel, one of the guards, was actually carrying linen or inmate clothing up to the L tier, which was the last time any CO approached the only entrance to the shoe tier in which Epstein was housed. So their theory at the time, I guess the theory was they were carrying up, they say inmate clothing. Basically, the idea is they're carrying up an orange jumpsuit. And that's why you see orange there at 10:40 p.m. That's The official story in
Yeah, but why is like the orange jumpsuit like person length? Why is she carrying it like she's holding jumpsuit out in front of her?
23 was that they were carrying somebody's clothing up. Now we are finding out that that wasn't carrying clothing up. That was actually Epstein himself, for some reason, was locked in his cell at 10:40 p.m., way after lockdown, and we don't know why or how any of this happened. And then we know from the same report that the guards made false statements and falsified records saying that they had made mandatory rounds and inmate counts when in fact they had not. So, does any of this mean for sure that the conspiracy theorists are right? No. It just means that this footage that they released and they hyped up and they said on the biggest podcast platform in the world was going to prove everything, proves nothing, and actually raises more questions because it contradicts the official narrative that has been said, which is that everyone was in lockdown when they should have been and no one could have possibly entered the cell block. But actually someone did. Now they're saying that's Epstein in a memo after hours for some mysterious reason the night of his death. Why? No answers. But don't look into it. You're conspiracy. You're crazy guy. By the way, got a shout out. Last chance to get the merch. We've only got a few days left on it. If you want.
Now there's been an update, I think, since then. Yeah, there's been 2. Coffee
Today we're
Still has
talking
been
about
on
Epstein,
it.
the missing footage, the White House's response, including the fact that they're saying you should stop asking questions about it. How dare you bring it up at a time when they just released new information about it?
Can you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey,
I
Pam,
could
I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
We watched that the other day. Oh my god. Epstein, Schmebstein. Who's that loser? Why do we gotta still talk about this? That's disrespectful.
You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is
I thought you were pros with him.
Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
The level of gaslighting here is unbelievable. These are the same people that have led us on for months that they're going to release the Epstein files, that it's transparency time. They're the ones that did the press op with them holding up the Epstein binders with the influencers. They're the ones who said in 2023 that we would better serve the American people by going after Epstein's client list. In fact, they're the ones who went on podcasts saying they're going to release the Epstein list.
Release the list. Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
That is an important thing, or was an important thing until there was no Epstein list. Turns out there's nothing to see here, nobody to charge. Epstein was trafficking to himself the entire time, and it is a desecration to even bring it up. Now, why this is so disgusting is the DOJ chose to release it now, okay? In case you don't know how bad news gets released in the era of PR and all this kind of stuff, they choose the timing, and they always choose the most inconvenient times to talk about stuff, the busiest news cycles. It is a very busy news cycle. There are a lot of things going on that are important, but that's why they released it now.
Yeah.
Because they know nobody's gonna like this, right? They know that. So they release it now, and then they scold people for talking about it. You get how gross this is? You guys are the ones desecrating. If anyone's desecrating anything, it's you guys. You guys chose to release it now, okay? So to play this cynical card of like, how dare you talk about it at a time like this? You chose the time.
They were like, national emergency, release the Epstein files, and they hit both at the same time.
A few months ago, it wasn't a desecration to brag about the transparency, right? But now, the old Epstein list apparently can't be released because it doesn't exist. Now, oh, it's a desecration to even bring it up. How could you talk about this New York financier? Luckily for us, Pam Bondi does actually address the missing minute of footage. Now we're going to talk about that.
The video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year.
here's what I've noticed, okay, from looking at this footage. I'll tell you what the most glaring thing for me is. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with security cameras or with a security company or anything to that effect. But something to note is that when you're looking at a recording, right? When you're trying to understand what is going on in the recording and you need to take a moment to watch it, let's say you suspect somebody stealing a Pokemon card from a child and you need to go through the footage and figure out who did it. That's why you see these buttons up here that are going to pop up. Apparently not this second. They most consistently stay after 11:37 p.m. Now, it is very hard to make out what these buttons are, but if I had to guess based off of what shapes they kind of look like, I'm going to say the rewind. It's tough. This right here looks like volume, if I'm going to be straight honest with you, because it looks like a little thing and then it grows up and down, forward, backward, pause maybe. But these are the controls that you would use to navigate your system, because usually there's like a little pad type style thing and a couple of little buttons you got to hit in order to navigate it. So that's what this is. This usually pops up when you're trying to find a specific moment. And what it looks like to me is that they took this equipment, hooked it up to like a capture device, started playing it on the capture device, kept the buttons up, either because they were touching it or whatever, edited the footage, or downloaded it, paused it, cut the images, uploaded a new one, or cut the pieces together, like splice, cut, if that makes sense. So that's why these are here. This is a menu. I wish I could see the rest of it, but that's also why there's these black bars, because here are the YouTube bars right here. They're this like brown black. This right here is a screen recording, be it from a capture card or some kind of other device. It also looks like there's a bit of an angle. But that's why it also has this like weird frame and this right here. And then when we get to (12:01 a.m.), it's gone. See, 11:58. (12:01). It's gone, and the screen got smaller. Like the overall image shrunk.
Every night they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
And that's it, guys. Apparently, every night, the surveillance system of this prison had 1 minute missing, okay? 1 key minute, the middle of the night. We don't know why, but it's the whole system, apparently the whole system that went out 10 days before. The part of the system that was working, 1 minute was always missing. But surely there's nothing that could have happened during that minute. Now, again, I'm not even on the team of like, it has to be that someone killed. I'm agnostic to that. What I am saying is the absolute confidence with which they come out and say, it proves everything. Yes, there's a minute missing. Yes, we don't know what happened, but nothing to see here, guys. We're closing the case. I mean, you couldn't try harder to make it look like a cover-up. I'm not saying it is a cover-up. I'm saying you could, if you were to do that, this is what you would do. You'd say, hey, there's always minutes missing from our footage. Your prison guards would falsify records and then fall asleep during the key hours. Your security system that was monitoring the actual cell block would go out. And then you would claim the camera that was recording that didn't have a good line of sight, which had an obstructed view where someone could slip by the stairwell without anyone noticing. You'd claim that was definitive proof that nobody entered. So you can't blame people for asking questions given the powerful people involved when there's these coincidental mistakes, right? Even the first attempt, which put Jeffrey Epstein on a watch, that footage was captured on tape, but they failed to preserve it. That was a whole other saga, was, oh, they just preserved the wrong footage, so it's lost to time, right? That's also the same time where Epstein accused his cellmate of trying to kill him, by the way.
Tonight, a lawyer who met with Jeffrey Epstein days before his death says Epstein told him he'd never tried to kill himself 3 weeks before, despite jail reports saying he did.
Sean says Epstein revealed that a few days earlier, his former cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, had placed something around his neck.
And he put a rope around Mr. Epstein's throat and then pulled it. That left the abrasion.
Tartaglione was...
Okay, conspiracy theory time. Okay, so I think Epstein didn't kill himself. I believe another inmate might have killed him because remember, a lot of people in jail fucking hate pedophiles and rapists and people who hurt little kids. People in jail hate motherfuckers like that. And so a lot of times when that shit happens, the people who are responsible for those things or, you know, potentially responsible for those things end up dead or worse. So I am leaning towards the side that conspiracy theory wise, Epstein didn't kill himself. An inmate killed him, but the government can't get into it any more than that because if they do, they have to release all of the files on Epstein. And it would incriminate everybody. That's my theory.
Was a former cop on trial for murdering 4 people. He used a twist tie to strangle one of them.
But apparently we can't ask questions about that because, you know, they chose to release it at an inconvenient time, and therefore asking questions about it is somehow evil, wrong, or undignified. It's a desecration. Now, besides the 1 minute missing, Pam Bondi also addressed the tens of thousands of videos that she said that she had access to, now saying that they're largely irrelevant child exploitation material.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Wait, they were downloaded by him? Then why did he fuck all those girls?
Never gonna see the light of day, that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I agree that probably some of this is true and it shouldn't see the light of day, but that isn't just what the FBI said they found. They also said they had videos and images of Epstein himself with minors. And was anyone else on these videos? We don't know, and they're not gonna release it. And finally, they also addressed this whole agent angle where Alex Acosta said back in the day that Epstein belonged to intelligence. The idea is he was working for someone. There's been reports that he had CIA meetings on his calendar or that he might have been an FBI informant. Pam Bondi comes in and says she doesn't know anything about it.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that.
Now, if true, this is pretty unbelievable because this is the same person who just saw all the files, reviewed all the files that were on her desk. No idea if he was a member of intelligence. Like,
yeah, I read everything on this guy. I don't know anything about him.
How is that possible that you reviewed the entire file? And does anyone actually believe that? Like, we're gonna hear definitive stuff on this? If they haven't released it now, if they're scolding you now, do you think really they're gonna open that can of worms back up? How can you really say you have no idea if that's the case if you've reviewed the entire file? There's really no way to see this release as anything other than an abject humiliation of the people involved here, and it's mostly their own fault. I mean, these are the same people who engaged in the conspiratorial thinking of, hey, this is definitely a cover-up, this is definitely more to see here. Then they get in, and then they say the same stuff. So really, it comes down to they overpromised, they underdelivered, and then now they're scolding everybody involved for expecting the things that they were promised. Even Peter Doocy of Fox News, who's not exactly a left-leaning guy, was pressing the White House secretary on exactly this, these promises that failed to live up to the hype.
Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars.
Yeah, they're more than committed to bad people getting put behind bars, except for anyone who is involved with Epstein. Where are the Epstein bad guys who were on that island, who were fraternizing with Epstein? Are we to believe that none of them did anything incriminating? It was just Epstein by himself, and all these people loved hanging out with him? I mean, we have reports. Like, the crazy thing is all this stuff is open. We have reports that Epstein's whole house was bugged specifically to record people in their private moments.
All right. I wasn't going to get back to it, but I think we will. When these two videos finish, we're going to get back to the J. Aubrey Epstein video, because I need to remind people of this stuff. And I feel like it's good to, back.
It's true that you have been photographed together.
No. No. Okay.
And we're supposed to pretend like none of this existed.
He showed me where the men monitoring everything were. I looked on the cameras and I saw toilet, toilet, bed, bed, toilet, bed. It was very obvious that they were like monitoring private moments.
So the idea that it's just Epstein, there were multiple bedrooms being recorded, but apparently maybe he was just checking in to make sure they got a good night's sleep. He just wanted to make sure these millionaires and billionaires were getting their 8 hours. So yeah, the level of gaslighting here is unbelievable, and that's going to be where we have to wrap it. Don't forget, crime is legal.
Get his merch. All right. So last we left off with this J. Aubrey video. We were about 39 minutes into it. But we stopped it just after this news anchor had the scoop on the Epstein case, but her news company that she worked for, organization that she worked for, was like, no, we're not going to release that. We're going to kill that story right now. No one cares about him.
was not considered pertinent by the judge in this defamation case Virginia had brought against Epstein and Ghislaine. Despite this, widely circulated photos showing a 17-year-old Virginia standing next to Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell just hours before one of the assaults, according to Virginia. But because ABC chose not to air any of this in 2015, these claims were not made public until 2019, to which Buckingham Palace immediately denied just before Prince Andrew made probably one of the biggest PR mistakes I've ever seen in my entire life. This utterly painful interview that has gone on to haunt Prince Andrew ever since was
I don't think I remember this.
conducted by the BBC in November 2019, advised against by his communications secretary Jason Stein, who would notably quit his job immediately after this thing aired, which says enough right there. If anyone was on the fence about Andrew's guilt going into this thing, they certainly weren't anymore.
Actually, it's a very good opportunity, and I'm delighted to be able to see you today.
Oh man, I'm sure you are.
As you say, all of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein.
It would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend.
About 6 minutes in, we learned that despite visiting Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, flying on the Lolita Express, staying at his New York estate, and taking a trip to his private island, Andrew, who was serving on Britain's Full Stop campaign, aimed to stamp out child sex trafficking, ironically, has never once seen any indication of what the financier was really up to. But things only start to get worse when the interviewer asks about Epstein's 2006 indictment, which is also the same year that Andrew invited Epstein out to his daughter's 18th birthday party across the pond. But even
Fucking gross. That was Harvey Weinstein there too.
if Andrew was somehow not aware of any investigation by the time he sent that invitation, if he were truly innocent like he claims, he would have officially cut all communication in 2006, you'd think, right? I mean, after the indictment, he's no more talking to the pedophile, right? And that's something he says he maintained until 2010. Keyword there, until 2010.
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So I just
This is why I don't understand the point of this interview. You are admitting to millions of people that you knowingly hung out with a convicted pedophile 4 years after you say you cut him off. What, did you just change your mind? You were against pedophilia in 2006, but you got a change of heart in 2010, and we're supposed to think you're innocent?
By December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together.
Ah, well, that plan really worked out, huh? You were literally photographed with him on that trip.
I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him.
Yeah, man, we wouldn't want to disrespect the convicted pedophile, would we?
And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park. And that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact.
Prince Andrew thinks you are stupid enough to believe that someone just happened to snap a picture of him during the exact moment he was telling Epstein, hey man, you're a pedophile, we can't hang out anymore. Now, does anyone on the face of the earth believe that? You let him throw you a party with all those guests I mentioned earlier.
We decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day.
Yeah, just had to get one more night in at the pedo palace, huh?
He didn't go into any great depth in the conversation about what I was doing, or what he was doing.
Very, very unfortunate Freudian slip there.
Who advised you then that it was a good idea to go and break up the friendship? Did that come from the palace? Was Her Majesty the Queen involved?
No.
You can tell he's extremely careful in this interview not to implicate the rest of his, well, slightly important family.
Sorry, looking at the family tree. Wow. These are the only kids? Or are there more?
family, almost like he knows he massively messed up and probably did some heinous things behind closed doors, which again begs the question, why did he agree to this interview? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it. I wish everyone involved with Epstein did an interview like this. I keep going, Andrew, this is great.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honor.
Oh, it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honor.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
Okay, let's say it was a dinner. Okay, you moron. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people came. You were still having a ball, yucking it up with your friends, the sex traffickers.
You said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing.
Oh, it was in New York. It wasn't even in. Fucking. Excuse me. It wasn't even in England. He flew to New York to break up their friendship. What the fuck?
I was there.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
Oh man, I love how he just gives up at a certain point. Like, you knew she was gonna ask these questions. Why are you shocked that you're having to answer for your behavior? I mean, he is only a little entitled, I guess. The guy did grow up in a literal castle.
At the time, I felt it was the honourable and right thing to do. My judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable.
You heard it here first, everybody. The honourable thing to do is meet with a guy you know is a pedophile in person to tell him you can't be friends anymore over the course of a 4-day dinner party extravaganza. I mean, I just can't wrap my mind around this.
So why wouldn't you announce this breakup when you got back? Why wouldn't you publicly explain what you'd done?
Oh, that's a great question. And the answer is because he's lying. He didn't take that trip to break up with him or whatever. That's an excuse he came up with from the looks of it 30 minutes before this interview, but you know, that's just my guess.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating.
I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was, oh actually, yes, I didn't sweat at the time, and it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it, so therefore.
So in the midst of very shamelessly lying about his sweating habits, Andrew goes on to rattle off a detailed alibi for himself on the specific evening that Virginia says the assault took place. And that's before he goes on to say that, well, he might have met Virginia. And yes, in fact, he has seen the photograph of the two of them together, but strangely, he's unable to offer a convenient excuse for why such a photo exists. Other than, hey, maybe it's fake, right? And mind you, this was before the days of Midjourney and Dolly, so if there's anyone out there who genuinely thinks this is the result of some master Photoshop work, I'd love to meet them, shake their hand, and ask them to get their eyes checked.
You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Oh, it's definitely me.
I love jawbreak.
I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of. I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie.
Oh yeah, here's a photo of him in London without a suit and tie, by the way. He even looks like he's sweating a bit. If the first half of this interview was bad, the second half is almost unwatchable. He's stuttering all over the place, desperately in search for the right excuses, while knowing deep down there is no way he could sell this thing. He's struggling to remember even the most basic details of the defense his team no doubt coached him to say.
When was your last contact with her?
It was earlier this year, funny enough, in the summer.
So even though he had by then been arrested and was facing charges of sex trafficking?
No. This was early spring, I think. It was long, because when was he arrested?
July.
No, it was before July.
And that was the last time?
Yeah. Because
Did you discuss Epstein at all then?
No, actually, funnily enough, No, not at all.
It's just an awesome way to end it. So when did you see Ghislaine? This summer, after Epstein got caught? When was that? July? Oh yeah, that was way before that. Long time before that, I can promise. Now, I'm sure you already knew, at the very least, that this interview existed. I mean, it's one of the most infamous pieces of television as far as I'm concerned. But what you may not know is that in response to Andrew's claims, Virginia spoke out in her own interview with the BBC the following month. In it, she recalls in vivid detail the traumatizing encounter with the prince, and that all she could remember at the time was that she had just been abused by a member of the royal family. These powerful people were my chains, adding, he knows what happened, I know what happened. There's only one of us telling the truth, and I know it's me. Over the following years, Virginia would file a lawsuit against Andrew specifically, accusing the prince of sexual assault, leading Andrew to hire the same lawyer who went on to work with none other than Colleen Bollinger just last year. But by February 2022, Andrew was forced to pay Virginia an out-of-court settlement, possibly, reportedly, financed in part by the Queen of England herself, who is also said to have contributed millions to her son's civil suit against Virginia, according to the Daily Telegraph. But Virginia's story doesn't end with Prince Andrew. In fact,
Maggie's in a box, y'all. Thank the gods. My God, Payne, protect your son from sexual allegations. I don't know if I could ever be in that spot. And if I am, I hope to God I have a better response.
In fact, an entire handful of Epstein's buddies were also implicated in the deposition released in 2019, along with a 139-page memoir written by Virginia, linked in the description below in full. If you take the time to read through all of it, you'll be presented with a first-person account of life inside Epstein's trafficking ring, and how she was first approached by Ghislaine Maxwell as a
That's Naomi Campbell. Right there.
of life inside Epstein's trafficking ring, and how she was
And right here, right? I'm pretty sure it's Naomi Campbell.
first approached by Ghislaine Maxwell as a teenager, assisting her dad over the summer at Mar-a-Lago. With her hopes set on one day becoming a massage therapist, Virginia worked near the spa and would often read books on anatomy when business was slow. Virginia describes her first encounter with Ghislaine as follows. A lovely-looking woman in her late 30s who spoke with a proper English accent approached me. I assumed it was a general question like, where's the ladies' room, and was that a fancy model from so-and-so? But she was more interested in the book I was reading, only believing at first that we were just making small talk. She was really intrigued by my choice of reading. She then asked if I do massages on the side, and I stated I was only reading the book and had not yet begun to study, but one day I would love to practice massage therapy. It wasn't long after that Ghislaine would mention this rich guy who happened to be looking for a massage therapist. Turning her down at first on account of her own inexperience in the field, Virginia eventually ended up accepting Ghislaine's contact information and couldn't wait to tell her dad the good news. We both thought this could be a wonderful opportunity to get my accreditation in massage therapy, she wrote. Seeing that it was a lady in her late 30s who came off as more of a nurturer rather than a procurer, neither of us saw any reason to be hesitant, which I think perfectly encapsulates the way Epstein and Ghislaine would weaponize these girls' personal aspirations against them. They knew exactly how to manipulate the desires and interests of their victims to extract what they wanted. What started off as this exciting chance to pursue her dreams turned into one of the darkest periods in Virginia's life.
But it was supposed to be, a massage therapy. And I thought, wow, that might be a good job to learn. And when I met him, he was just in jeans in front of his mansion and just seemed like a regular guy. I had no idea what was going on.
Virginia describes in vivid detail her first encounter with Epstein, along with her second, her third, her fourth, and so on. Before long, Virginia realized she had become one of Epstein's favorite, quote, new little toys, as she put it in her memoir, and went on to accompany him on frequent excursions all across the world. It was during her 2 years of being trafficked that Virginia claims she was forced to have sex not only with Epstein and Prince Andrew, which on one occasion involved the prince using a puppet look-alike of himself to grope another victim while he touched Virginia Virginia with his other hand, but also named a slew of other powerful clients. The list included a Harvard professor named Stephen, another prince whose name she couldn't recall, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, and an owner of a hotel chain who she described as a short, balding man with straggling remnants of curly brown hair. This owner, she claims, offered to pay her triple to work for him instead of Epstein. It's important to note here that Virginia was also being given high doses of Xanax during these years, unfortunately obscuring her recollection of certain specific names. One person she did mention by name, though, was former Senate Majority Leader and Disney chairman George Mitchell, who obviously denies the claims, though according to Virginia's memoirs, as well as her sworn deposition, Mitchell was just one of many recognizable figures of the high society that became added to my list of clientele. Of course, being introduced to for a lot more than just a client of massage. It's important to note here that most victims have testified that massage to Epstein and Ghislaine was code for sex. First meeting Mitchell at a dinner party attended by other esteemed billionaires and widely acclaimed scientists, Virginia wrote, "My body was put on the banquet menu." Other prominent figures Virginia named include the late governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, who we also know received thousands of dollars in campaign donations from Epstein, billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, who Virginia says had sex with her while his pregnant wife was asleep in the next room. His wife being Epstein's former girlfriend Eva Anderson, by the way. And of course, French modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, who Virginia says she was sent to have sex with at many places.
But one man Eileen Ford does associate with in Paris is this man, the head of Karen Models, one of the largest and most prestigious agencies in the country. His name is Jean-Luc Brunel.
Brunel has always carried a reputation of being an absolute monster, dating as far back as the late 80s when a 60 Minutes investigation spearheaded by Diane Sawyer revealed his habit of drugging and abusing models from all over the world. His elusiveness earned him the nickname Le Fantôme, or the Ghost, by French prosecutors. Brunel is also a noted longtime personal friend of Epstein, with flight logs indicating he took at least 25 trips on the Lolita Express from 1998 to 2005. According to a report from The Independent, Brunel established an agreement that he would use his influence within the world of fashion to scope out underage girls to groom for Epstein, noting that Brunel continued this work even in the years following his firing from his original agency. He simply started a new one, of which Epstein invested over $1 million to help get off the ground. Brunel was also known for leaving cryptic messages for Epstein at his Palm Beach residence, according to further unsealed court documents. A few examples that have made their way to the press include, "Just did a good one, 18 years, and he has a teacher for you to teach how to speak Russian. She is 2 at times 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free and you can have your first today if you call." Epstein had proudly slept with over 1,000 of Brunel's girls, according to Virginia, who also claimed that Brunel once gifted Epstein 12-year-old French triplets for his birthday. As a part of her sworn deposition, Virginia recalled that Jeffrey bragged after he met them that they were 12-year-olds and flown over from France because they're really poor over there and their parents needed the money, adding that she had in fact seen these triplets with her own eyes. She continued, "He was so excited about the entire event, replayed it over and over again over the next course of weeks, how cute they were, and how you could tell they were really young. He went on to tell me how Brunel bought them in Paris from their parents, offering them the usual sums of money, visas, and modeling career prospects. Laughing the whole way through, Jeffrey thought it was absolutely brilliant how easily money seduced all walks of life. Nothing or no one that couldn't be bought. The triplets were flown back to France after Epstein was done with them." Brunel, unsurprisingly, denied all allegations in 2015, but following Epstein's arrest 4 years later, a new French investigation was launched into the disgraced modeling agent, and in December 2020, Brunel was finally arrested, taken into custody on charges of rape, sexual assault against minors, sexual harassment, criminal conspiracy, and trafficking human beings. While awaiting trial in February 2022, the 76-year-old Brunel was found hanging in his prison cell, dead.
He died exactly the same way Jeffrey Epstein did as well, and also that he wasn't necessarily on suicide watch facing these charges.
Yasmin, these parallels are so striking.
That's horrifying. Sorry.
Virginia saw a lot of famous people
So
during her time with
disgusting.
Epstein. One being Les Wexner, who she said she had sex with possibly more than 5 times, according to unsealed court documents. Some additional names Virginia mentioned were MIT professor Marvin Minsky, who she says had sex with her on Little St. James Island, billionaire Tom Pritzker, and of course Simpsons creator Matt Groening, who she claims to have given a foot massage during a flight to Los Angeles, recounting how she almost threw up at the shape of his feet. Writing in her memoir, he had yellow, crusty toenails that even someone with a chainsaw would have had troubles cutting through. And then there was the fluffy balls of leftover pieces of sock wedged between the crevices of his sweaty toes. In return, he allegedly compensated her with a drawing of Homer and Bart Simpson made out to her brother and father. Amidst the vast sea of names implicated by Virginia, however, there was one very notable person that stood out among the rest.
I don't really know why you like to defend these high-profile clients. Do you regret it at all? And did you ever see anything untoward about Mr. Epstein?
Alan Dershowitz is a criminal defense attorney who has spent much of his life teaching at Harvard in between representing the most controversial figures he could find. He began his career defending 3 far-right terrorists accused of planting a bomb in the Manhattan office of Imprizio Saul Hurok, successfully getting them off before helping to get another certified good guy off the hook a couple years later. For those of you listening right now, I can't see the screen, it's O.J. Simpson. He was O.J. Simpson's lawyer in 1995, and would go on to provide his services for Mike Tyson during his rape case, Donald Trump during his first impeachment, where he argued it's not illegal for Trump to bribe the Ukrainian president, and was also Harvey Weinstein's lawyer, despite insisting on the view what a big supporter of the Me Too movement he was. In his 6 decades of being a public figure, Dershowitz has also argued in favor of torture during the Iraq War, wrote about lowering the legal age of consent to 16, went to extreme lengths to deny tenure for pro-Palestinian professor
gross.
Norm Finkelstein after a
Oh my god, Norm Finkelstein! God, there's so many like crossovers in this universe. Like ways I didn't expect, but this is gross.
heated debate the two of them had on Israel, and is actually set to defend the state of Israel against allegations of war crimes at the International Court of Justice sometime in the near future. And
It's interesting that the French guy that they just talked about that hung himself in his jail cell had an Israeli army hat. And then this guy's representing Israel. I just
of
think
course,
it's
he was
interesting.
also the lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein, of whom he considered at one point to be a good friend. In fact, when asked if he'd still be close to Epstein in the event the financier could no longer afford legal counsel in 2003, Dershowitz replied, "Absolutely. I would be as interested in him as a friend if we had hamburgers on the boardwalk in Coney Island and talked about his ideas." What ideas? When he was writing his book, he told
Who gets a hamburger on Coney Island? You get a hot dog. Coney Island dogs. What?
Vicky Ward that the only person he'd send drafts to outside of his immediate family was Jeffrey Epstein. Ward also notes that Dershowitz was thrilled to meet none other than Prince Andrew at Epstein's Manhattan residence one time, even letting the prince hang out in the back of his lectures.
I'm thrilled that all these papers have come out. I urged them. I went to court. I asked for everything to come out because I knew that I had done nothing wrong, and the papers would exculpate me. I want to make sure every single document comes out. The public has the right to see everything.
Virginia Giuffre first accused Alan Dershowitz of sexual abuse in a 2014 sworn affidavit, claiming under oath that she was forced to have sex with the professor on at least 6 separate occasions, even appearing to get physically sick as she tried to describe the alleged encounters to attorneys. The first time she ever met the Harvard professor, Virginia said on the record, was at the office of Epstein's Manhattan home, which we know from the Vanity Fair article Dershowitz was known to visit. While she stresses it's hard for her to remember things chronologically, she says she is able to recall the most recent time she had sex with Dershowitz, which allegedly happened on an airplane in Massachusetts, as well as the first time in Epstein's bedroom minutes after the financier had left the room. Dershowitz walked in, and Virginia claims they had sex on a red velvet chair. Afterwards, Epstein asked Virginia if he enjoyed it, to which she told him yes. She also claimed that Dershowitz participated in sexual activity in a black limousine involving herself, Epstein, Dershowitz, and another young girl on the way to Dershowitz's house. Virginia also emphasized just how where Dershowitz was of all the other young girls constantly around Epstein, stating in her affidavit, Dershowitz was so comfortable with the sex that was going on that on one occasion he observed me in sexual activity with Epstein. Virginia also alleged she witnessed Dershowitz having sex with another one of Epstein's young victims at one point, a blonde girl who she assumed to be underage. Dershowitz has since lashed out hard against Virginia, who he's referred to as a borderline pathological liar out to destroy his career in pursuit of money. What happened next was a complicated years-long series of lawsuits in which Virginia went after Dershowitz for defamation, causing Dershowitz to countersue, eventually concluding with a settlement in 2022. After this settlement, Virginia told reporters that she, quote, may have made a mistake in accusing Dershowitz of abusing her. This has now given Dershowitz the green light to openly parade his supposed innocence in a barrage of media appearances, telling everyone who will listen about how wrongfully victimized he was by an attention-seeking liar, and that this is what finally exonerates him. But that's not exactly a fair characterization of the settlement, according to Virginia. As Dershowitz was taking his public victory lap, Virginia told the Daily Beast in an exclusive statement, I was shocked to read that Alan Dershowitz is claiming that our mutual dismissal of our lawsuits against each other somehow exonerated him. The litigation was very stressful and damaging to my family and to my health. We have endured years in which Mr. Dershowitz asserted my charges against him were a lie, made up out of whole cloth, perjury, and part of a purported extortion plot. He has now admitted there was no perjury, no extortion plot, and rather than making up what I said, I honestly believe the charges I made against him. Whether or not Mr. Dershowitz's admissions undermine his previous denials of the charges made against him is for others to say. The settlement agreement limits what I can say, and I will abide by it unless and until I am released from it. However, those admissions are not consistent with exoneration.
I can tell you she is still a prostitute. She is selling false stories now for money about me.
Do you have any concern calling her a prostitute when she was victimized at such a young age by this wealthy man?
She was not victimized. She made her own decisions in life.
But at the age of 15, some would say that's a little young and that she was taken advantage of.
I'm talking about the age of 19. Look, that's between her and the federal government and the people that she claims victimized her.
For what it's worth, I think it should also be said that Virginia had in fact told several people about Dershowitz being involved with Epstein's operation years before her affidavit. And for Dershowitz's part, it would seem he was totally fine with a friend of his making a quote-unquote joke about Epstein housing young girls in 2014. Virginia also reiterated to the Daily Beast that Mr. Dershowitz sued Mr. Boyce, her lawyer, for charging Mr. Dershowitz with participating in Epstein's sex trafficking and other misconduct. Mr. Boyce did not retract any of those charges, but Mr. Dershowitz nevertheless dismissed his claims against Mr. Boyce. That too hardly seems like exoneration. And if that's not enough, another Epstein victim, Sarah Ransom, also accused Dershowitz of having sex with her while she was being trafficked by Epstein. To this day, Ransom has never retracted her allegations against Dershowitz.
All the feminist groups and the radicals who think this is the worst thing in the world, that anybody ever had any contact with Jeffrey Epstein, where are all those radical feminists when it comes to the Hamas rapes of young Jewish girls, sexual abuse, beheadings? They are quiet. They are silent. The incredible hypocrisy of the Me Too movement. Me too, except if you're a Jew.
One of the first times Jeffrey Epstein made national headlines was in 2002, in this article written by Landon Thomas Jr., who, by the way, would also go on to write an extremely positive piece for the Financier after he was sentenced for procuring an underage girl for prostitution, and before getting fired from the New York Times for admitting he was still friends with the convicted pedophile. Oh, he also asked Epstein for $30,000 in 2017, according to the Daily Beast, so that's fun. Pretty normal guy. Anyway, in this article, he uses language like he collects beautiful minds, and Epstein brings a trophy hunter's zeal to his collection of scientists and politicians. And that last part certainly isn't wrong, as subsequent data from the Center of Responsive Politics shows Epstein donated to a litany of politicians from both the right and the left, including Chuck Schumer, Bob Dole, Bob Packwood, Elliot Spitzer, and even former President George H.W. Bush. But of those names is a politician who's long been associated with Epstein since the mid-90s. Someone who Virginia says she met on Little St. James, and someone who's already been caught lying about his connection to the late pedophile.
Newly released Jeffrey Epstein court filings revealing more alleged ties to many people, including Bill Clinton.
Epstein was hanging around the 42nd president as early as 1993, a month after he was sworn into office, according to visitor logs provided by the Clinton Presidential Library. Epstein and Ghislaine visited again in September of that year after Epstein made a $10,000 donation to help refurbish the Oval Office, according to this letter from Bernard R. Meyer, the VP of the White House Historical Association, thanking Epstein for his generous contribution. Overall, it's been reported that Epstein visited the Clinton White House a grand total of 17 times, accompanied by 8 women, 4 of which being former girlfriends, according to these logs, which show that Epstein popped in and out of the White House twice in one day on 3 separate occasions, though there seems to be no stated purpose for any of these visits. Clinton also attended a 3-hour private dinner hosted by former Revlon owner Ron Perlman and other elites in Palm Beach in 1995, a meeting that Clinton had not mentioned until a 28-year-old newspaper snippet obtained by Snopes, meeting that Clinton had not.
All right, so Jimmy Buffett's there. Not Jimmy Buffett! Don Johnson, Deborah Douglas, Albano Floyd, Don Founder, Bill Clinton, and Paul Pagroni, a Georgetown classmate, wife of actor Michael Douglas, actor, Revlon something and his wife, Revlon mogul, singer Jimmy Buffett,
mentioned until a
super
28-year-old.
Oh. Sugar Management and Democratic National Committee co-chair.
Newspaper snippet obtained by Snopes confirmed it. In the wake of the Epstein story being revitalized by his arrest and death in 2019, Clinton has taken very conscious steps to distance himself from who he once called a highly successful financier and committed philanthropist. After all, Epstein's own lawyers asserted in court documents that Epstein was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative. A fun fact about the Clinton Global Initiative, by the way, is that they once endorsed the Terra Mar Project, an environmental NGO with the self-stated goal of conserving, protecting, and improving oceans, seas, and coastlines. Who founded the Terra Mar Project, you ask? Great question, let's check. Whoops. I mean, Snopes has verified that Ghislaine Maxwell did also attend Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010, featured it right there in the middle. Man, not even in the background or anything, I didn't even want to hide it. After all, though, she did take the president's daughter out on a yacht trip a year earlier in 2009. Epstein was literally serving a jail sentence, while at the same time, the woman who helped him find victims was taking the president's daughter on a trip through the open seas. But whatever, I'm going insane. Let's take it back to 2002, when Landon Thomas Jr. wrote for the first time about the Clinton-Epstein World Tour extravaganza the two men embarked upon, visiting New York, Paris, Bangkok, Brunei, Norway, Morocco, Brussels, and need I go on, all in hopes of providing humanitarian aid for continents like Africa, spreading democracy, empowering the poor, and combating HIV and AIDS, according to a Clinton spokesperson shortly after the trip. Some of the other notable passengers on this famed international excursion included the likes of Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey, who you can actually see sitting here on Queen Elizabeth's throne next to Ghislaine. According to the Daily Telegraph, they were taking a tour of Buckingham Palace led by Prince Andrew. I love recurring characters. In fact, despite Clinton originally insisting he had only taken 4 rides on the Lolita Express, flight logs indicate Clinton actually took at least 26 rides on Epstein's private jet shortly after leaving office between 2001 and 2003, an assertion that he still has not directly responded to. You wonder why that is. It's pretty out of character for him to lie to the American public, I think we all know. Virginia has never made any allegations of wrongdoing against Clinton himself, but her assertions do go a little further than what the former president has admitted to doing. Virginia stated in her sworn deposition that she personally met Clinton on Little St. James Island at least twice during her travels with Epstein, something that Clinton has long denied across the board, describing in her memoir an alleged dinner where there were only a few of us eating at the dinner table. There was Jeffrey at the head of it all, as always. On the left side was Emmy, another Epstein recruiter, Ghislaine, and I. Sitting across the table from us was Bill, with two lovely girls who were visiting from New York. Bill's wife, Hillary's absence from the night made it easy for his apparent provocative, cheeky side to come out, teasing the girls on either side of him with playful pokes and brassy comments. There was no modesty between any of them. We all finished our meals and scattered in our own different directions, strolling into the darkness with two beautiful girls around either arm. Bill seemed content to retire for the evening. Now, to Clinton's credit, flight logs obtained through an FOIA request have presented no evidence that he attended the island. Now, yes, he flew with Epstein more times, way more times, than he originally cared to admit, but those same flight records also don't do a lot to imply he ever visited Little St. James. But along with Virginia's sworn deposition, we also have former Clinton aide Doug Band, who Clinton kept in his inner circle even after leaving the White House. Band himself has even flown on the Lolita Express with the former president, just to give you an idea of how close these two were. Band has also alleged Lolita Express.
Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, SK. That brothers have endorsed set up. President, sorry, it's just
with the former president, just to give you an idea of how close these two were. Band has also alleged for years that Clinton has in fact visited Little St. James, specifically in January of 2003. Band did not attend this alleged visit, as he told Vanity Fair it was one of the few trips he declined. It's worth noting the Clinton camp has provided detailed travelogue entries of the period in question that do not contain a visit, as Vanity Fair goes on to clarify. But then you have Steve Scully, a former employee of Epstein's in charge of the island's telecommunication for 6 years, who not only claimed to have seen Prince Andrew groping and kissing Virginia near a pool, he says, but also stated in the Netflix documentary Filthy Rich that he once witnessed Bill Clinton sitting on a porch on the island next to Epstein. Virginia only doubling down in the documentary with, "I remember having dinner with Clinton. He was there and I never saw him do anything improper. I wish, he would just come clean about it, like, yeah, I was there, so what? Who cares? I didn't see anything going on."
Can you cover up the alleged allegation of your connection with Jeffrey Epstein? No.
Now, I don't think I have to tell you that Republicans with a hate boner for Clinton have absolutely done everything they can to emphasize his murk.
Donald Trump says, everyone knows Bill Clinton was on Jeffrey Epstein's plans and island a lot. Literally no one is at all surprised that he's all over the release. What we want to know is all the other names the government has been hiding and running cover for. That will actually be revealing. I wonder if Donald Trump and his family stoked the Epstein conspiracy fire to rally more of the conspiracy theory side to their base. And then now that they have won their election, they're like, nah, fuck you, we're not going to do that. But instead of saying that, they're just like, oh no, you're the crazy ones.
Relationship with the billionaire or millionaire. I guess we don't know how much Epstein was really worth. And I don't think there's anything wrong at all with bringing up those connections. I mean, you should ask questions about it, especially when you consider Clinton has lied about it. But those on the right who only single out Bill Clinton's relationship with Epstein should probably look in the mirror.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, people in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years.
As Landon Thomas wrote in his New York Magazine profile, Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who's never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And yet, if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges.
I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy.
Trump booms from a speakerphone.
He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even...
Is that Austin show?
Said that he likes likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Sorry for doing the voice. I couldn't quote him and not do the voice. This quote, which again dates all the way back to 2002, is remarkable considering what Trump has said about Epstein more recently, assuring journalists in 2019 from the White House that
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
So was he just being a fake friend all along then? You were fake?
And now he's calling him a creep.
For 15 years? You said he was a good hang. Alan Dershowitz, who of course represented both men in court, told the New York Times that in those days, if you didn't know Trump and you didn't know Epstein, you were a nobody. I didn't even know this until researching this video, but apparently Epstein liked to say he was the one who introduced Donald Trump to Melania, according to Vanity Fair, which also reported in 2021 that Ghislaine kept up to 16 of Trump's phone numbers in the infamous Little Black Book. She would also invite the future president to dinners and events all over the state of New York, their most infamous get-together being caught on this now widely circulated video of an extremely coked up looking Trump clapping and dancing and whispering into the ear of Epstein, who he's not a fan of by the way. The pair standing in front of a swarm of young models at a private Mar-a-Lago party and seem to be having a grand old time. I'm sure you've seen the video, but what you may not know is that the same year this was filmed, Trump and Epstein held another private party in Palm Beach where 28 women were in attendance. The only men at this party, though, were Trump and Epstein, at least according to the man who supplied the women. George Horaney of American Dream Enterprises tells the New York Times that he actually warned Trump of Epstein's proclivities toward young women, asking Trump in disbelief, "You're telling me it's you and Epstein? I know Jeff really well, and I can't have him going after younger girls." While Horaney says he had to ban Epstein from events, Trump didn't care about that, a claim that goes directly against what one Trump campaign manager later said, which is that Trump did eventually stop letting Epstein hang around events because he was too creepy, which in my opinion is a little out of character for Donald Trump. It's hard to deny Trump's reputation with women, especially younger women, isn't exactly the greatest. There is definitely some indication that Trump was aware of the young girls in Epstein's vicinity. Some insight coming from his future White House aide, Roger Stone, who told the New York Times in an effort to defend Trump, I think, that the former president once said the swimming pool was filled with beautiful young girls. How nice, I thought. He let the neighborhood kids use the pool after seeing Epstein's home in Palm Beach. And to make matters even more strange, journalist Craig Unger concluded his Vanity Fair examination of Trump and Epstein's relationship with the following passage. An associate of Epstein's, who asked not to be identified, told me that Epstein showed him one photo of Trump with a topless young girl. In another, the source said Trump is with two girls who are said to be laughing as they point out what appears to be a wet spot in an unfortunate location on his pants. The description of the photo suggested that it was a semen stain, but the photos have never.
Oh, I was thinking it was pee, because he's got such a pee kink. At least it's like always getting peed on, or people are peeing on him, or he's peeing on people.
Never been released. But by being in the news, it does feed into what Mark Epstein once reportedly heard from his older brother Jeff when it came to the 2016 election. As Mark told the New York Post recently, here's a direct quote: "If I said what I know about both candidates, they'd have to cancel the election. That's what Jeffrey told me in 2016. What that means exactly, we may never know." The two New York natives wouldn't stay friends forever though. While the exact reason for their split is still uncertain, it seemed to happen around 2005 when Epstein threatened to sue Trump over his purchase of a 65,000 square foot property Epstein had set his sights on, which was also once owned by Les Wexner, by the way, another fun fact. The thing never actually went to court, but it's been reported that Epstein himself once theorized that it was actually Donald Trump who tipped off local police in Palm Beach as a kind of retaliation for the threat. Sure, we know Trump is a petty guy, but authorities ultimately began looking into Epstein because of what young girls in the community had been saying. Unfortunately for them, the efforts of these prosecutors would tragically prove pretty feckless.
Breaking news in the fallout from the 2008 plea deal involving Palm Beach County billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Just hours ago, Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, as we've reported, vigorously defended his oversight of that plea deal.
Mr. Acosta is doing everything he can to divert attention away from his own responsibility.
And tonight we are still waiting on a statement from former Palm Beach County State Attorney Barry Krischer.
So this video ended up being a lot longer than I originally planned. I'm afraid if we don't split this into multiple videos, we may not get to cover everything as extensively as I'd like. But you can expect part 2 to explore the horrendous plea agreement that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to avoid life in prison, along with the connections he maintained after he was a convicted sex offender, his second arrest in 2019, and of course, whether or not he truly killed himself in custody. That video should come out about a week after this one, if all goes well. But if not, I'll let you know on Twitter at JAubreyYT. I don't really end videos like this, so I'm not really sure what else to say other than subscribe to Ground News.
Awesome. All right, guys. That's going to be it for me tonight. I'm going to get out of here. Tomorrow is Friday, so I will be here. And I will catch you guys up on all the other news that I find. And sorry I'm so low energy tonight. I'm just tired. Life is hard. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.